Y'all ready to get started?
Sure, yep.
Okay, so I figured maybe we can go through an inventory again, see where we're at, and then we can dive into the articles that we sent over.
Sure.
And I think you have your own spreadsheet that's got the status. I've got mine too.
Yeah, I think we're about the same on that.
So Article 2, we're saving to the end. I think we're close there, but we'll save to the end.
Did you want to just for drafting purposes, we were going to draft it as a 4-year term with, instead of an evergreen clause, just a 1-year extension. I think we talked about that when Will was here last. So that's kind of the draft that we're working on right now on our end.
We did put together a TA for a 4-year term of the
Okay.
contract. So-
Okay.
Are y'all sure you want to lock in with a 4 and not go 5?
Yeah, I think so. Just comfort level on the first one. So,
Positions are on the table.
yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah, and we looked at it and discussed it, and there's, stuff in there that we're just, especially when we talk about like locking in incentive pays and other stuff, that's gonna fluctuate, as pay fluctuates over time. And also, we don't know, right? Like, who knows? Maybe we need to modify the discipline process at some point or whatever it may be. So I felt like 4 was like a good middle ground between, 3 and 5 that, we both were looking at. So I think that'll probably be where we're at.
Okay.
But
Just want to make sure.
yeah,
And even in 4 years, you are locking in benefits for that
yeah,
4-year
yeah.
term.
We totally get it. We may not get all the 4-person staffing in 4 years. Totally understand, that potential risk. I think just as far as like comfort level goes, on the first contract, I think everybody would be a little more comfortable kind of seeing, how it all shakes out over a couple of years. So, because if we do 5 and then we activate an evergreen, it could be a 6-year contract. So, 4 could be 5. But I think I don't see an issue in 4 years. But like I said, I think for comfort level for everybody, and like I mentioned in the past, we totally understand the city's commitment to staffing. So I'm confident, in a couple years, maybe we can wrap up what we started. But who knows how budget and legislation Austin's going to look in 4 or 5 years also. So yeah, we could find out pretty quickly.
That's true. So I'm going to skip the ones that we've already TA'd. The next one on my list, but you correct me if I'm wrong. This is my first time here with y'all, so correct me if I'm wrong. Article 7, maintenance of standards. I think we're close, but I know that you wanted to have some additional discussion on that. So
Right.
after we
Yeah.
get through the list, we can come back to that and talk about whatever you all want to talk
Yeah, I
about.
think we're just one line away on that one. So
And work hours. Where are we on
Think-
work hours?
I think we're close on that. I did have some questions on that. I did clean up. We had the discussion last meeting about, the 24, 48, whatever, could be changed on mutual agreement. So I put language like that in section 1. I did have a question about the 365-day work period a little bit, but we can dive into that here in a little bit. But I think we're very close on that one. Just need some clarification.
Okay, we'll come back to that and we can have that conversation. Article 10, certification and incentive pay. So Janet sent y'all our Article 10. Y'all sent us over Article 10. I think we're really, really close. And
Yeah.
we can look and see, what I saw was the admin pay.
Yeah, so it is basically the same except admin pay. I was under the impression that just wanted consistency across the board. That's why I just proposed just a flat number. And, I can go into that at any time, but it's real brief. I mean, we did the math from $250 in 2009 to what that would be now. It ends up being $375. But if we're locking in a 4-year contract over the next 4 years, that number is going to creep up a little bit. So we figured it's probably going to end up around 400. But that's how we came to that math. And like I said, our impression felt like just wanted, for sake of payroll, budgeting, whatever it may be, wanted it just consistent. So that's why I just proposed the one number as opposed to a couple different numbers.
Okay, we'll come back and we'll talk about that. Because overall, right, we're looking at the whole contract as well,
Yeah.
and what
Yeah.
the city's spending its money
Yeah.
on, and we're committed to y'all's priority of increasing the strength of force, right? So we can talk about how that all plays together.
Okay.
And then Article 11, overtime. Where are we on that?
Let me pull this up real quick. I think that one was gonna be probably depending on how the staffing one looked, I think is what I brought up the last meeting. I think on that one I've got a few questions, but we wrote something up as well if sick leave is not productive time works. I think we've got it written up for that scenario as well. So
And that's something y'all are gonna send over to us? Or we're gonna have?
yeah, I can. I mean, I was waiting on seeing what staffing looked like
Okay,
before I
okay.
send that one over. So got that one a little bit. Like I said, I think almost everything else is probably
Real close.
depending on how like the whole staffing thing plays out, right? So that may be one of the first things we need to get into today, because I mean that's going to dictate everything
Yeah,
else. So
yeah. Once we get through this list, we can jump right into Article
Okay.
14. Okay, Article 12, same thing, right? Staffing.
kind of like I mentioned before, we've kind of cleaned that up a little bit based off of city policy. We can dive into that, in a little bit, but there's just minor changes to city policy in that one that we can discuss.
Okay. And vacation leave.
I think we're mostly good on that. I did have a question about just the percentaging, just one more clarification thing. But I think that one's not far off at all.
On the what? On the slot, on that percentage,
triggering
okay, on the
extra
additional slot?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think we're too far off on that, just clarification on something.
Perfect. And then Article 14, we've sent y'all our staffing.
Right.
We'll dive into that.
So we already TA'd it, but the promotions one, I noticed, I think an error in the source list posting section. I didn't catch it initially, but the paragraph kind of contradicts itself. So I don't know how, if we've TA'd something, if we reopen it or how that works, but we can discuss that. But there's 7 words in there.
Language cleanup?
Yeah, if it's just language cleanup, there should be no issue we'll go back
Okay.
and we can re-sign the TA.
Okay.
But that's not an
Okay.
issue to go back and clean it up.
And then the only other thing we were looking at on that one was if it does get reopened and clean the language. I know we proposed like April or May initially for the test, and you said September. Would you be good with moving it to October?
Is there a
So
reason for October?
we're
Is there a reason for October? I kind of gave you
We're-
an explanation of why September. 'cause
yeah. Well, we thought October, for one, because our upcoming tests are gonna be in October, so it helps prevent like any sort of gap in the promotional process, and it gives us that little bit of, separation from summer, if you will, just that little extra month there. But one of the big reasons was that, preventing that gap, like one list running short or one list running long kind of thing. But
I don't see a problem with it. I'll tell you
Okay.
why, is because, like I said, we're doing the entrance exam in September. The only thing I could probably foresee would be if there's protest and we have difficulties getting the board together, it
Yeah.
extends out,
So-
and we're not filling those spots in order for the upcoming new school.
yeah, so I ended up modifying it, basically just pushing everything back a month. Except, and I can explain this later when we get into it, but kind of the timeline on how it'll all shake out for just convenience sake and stuff for everybody. So it just remains consistent, but again, I didn't know how that works with already being TA'd, like if it gets reopened to clean up the one line, if we can have discussion about the other month. If not, I mean, it's not the end of the world. I mean, we're trying to, the more we think about trying to make it easier if we can, but it is what it is. I mean,
I think that's, when we do touch on other articles, it may, say, okay, this might have ripple effects that we didn't
Yeah.
anticipate, and we want to go back to it.
Right.
I mean, there's no problem with talking about it
Okay.
for sure. Obviously, we're at the end here, and we want to move on with things that we haven't covered yet, but certainly, we're always willing to listen to y'all.
agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to wrap it up. That's why it's not the end of the world.
Okay, and then, last thing.
No, we didn't
Yeah,
finish going through.
nope, not at all. Payroll deduction, I know y'all had sent us your original proposal from early on. We're looking at that
Okay.
now. But, I mean, I don't see any issue why we can't come to some sort of agreement on that article.
Okay.
Then we have, I think we're waiting on some feedback from y'all on Article 21 and Article 22 for investigations and discipline and the disciplinary matrix.
So I thought you guys sent a disciplinary matrix. I thought we were good with that.
Okay.
I had that on my list as possibly ready to TA.
Okay,
So,
we'll get that prepared for a TA then.
And same, that was for Article 22, the matrix. What about the discipline? I think we're still talking about the days, right?
Yeah, I think just some discussion on that part of it. Other than that, I think most of it is fine. There's just some cleanup stuff here and there, but
Okay, and then Article 23, contract grievances. I've got in my notes here that we're basically ready for a TA, but if you have any additional questions that you want us to explain, we certainly can when we get there, or I can do it real quickly right now.
yeah, I think clarification for the members and the rest of the guys up here in particular was Section 4. Like I said, I think the initial way I read that was like the only option was, I know we can mutually agree to mediation arbitration, but the way I read it was if we don't agree to that, it just goes straight to arbitration. So I was trying to, again, maybe I misunderstood. Like I was trying to figure out like, if we don't agree to mediation arbitration, can we just do mediation? But if we go mediation, it could end up just going to arbitration anyway. So I kind of got some clarity on that, but I think maybe it'd be helpful for other people that may watch a video or the rest of the team up here to kind of understand that step in the process.
Sure, yeah, and just real quickly, because it'll take me 5 seconds to explain it. But that's the intent, right, is that the parties can choose to do the med-arb route, the mediation arbitration, or they can choose not to for each particular grievance. So there may be a grievance, and I can't predict the future, but there may be a grievance that may be in line with the med-arb route. And if that doesn't work, that's fine. But there may be other grievance where we just want to do traditional mediation, and that's okay too. And then the mediator would go away if we're not able to settle, and then we do the traditional strike list for arbitrators. Or the parties don't have to do any mediation or med-arb and just go straight to arbitration. Depending on the grievance, one might suit one or the other. And so that's the intent there, is that the parties be able to dictate how they want to resolve the issue. Really, it's about relationships and keeping those relationships. The last thing we want is for a grievance to be filed, but we would like for, before it has to get to an arbitrator where it's completely out of our hands, where we can come to a resolution, and maybe med-arb is the right route, maybe mediation traditional is the right route, and maybe arbitration is the right route, but it gives us some options. Any other questions?
The language was if both parties agreed to do the med-arb route. But what if there is a discrepancy on who wants to go to arbitration and mediation?
Well, then you would follow the steps in the contract. So both parties would need to agree to mediation, and if both parties don't agree to mediation, then straight to arbitration.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
And then the only thing I noticed in that article, I think section 5 costs, the last line, we probably have to strike that legally. If we're reading the same thing, nothing in this agreement shall prevent the association from charging non-members reasonable fees and expenses. That line, section 5 at the very end. We have a duty of fair representation, so we can't charge non-members. So we probably just have to strike that line. Like legally, we can't charge a non-member to represent them.
I mean, that makes sense to me. I'll give it a closer look, so we'll give it a closer look and talk about it. I mean, but what you're saying makes sense.
Yeah, essentially, we can't charge a non-member if we have to pay for representation for them. It's just a cleanup thing in there, like legally, we can't do that.
I will say, as a matter of contract writing, we typically try not to get into union business and bylaws, so
Yeah.
we'll take a closer look at it.
And I think that provision in particular, I think is in 174, the duty of fair representation. Yeah, and Janice, so we can't charge them, so.
And I think, Brian, just kind of going back to the mediation arbitration discussion, that step 4 language, I do think it needs some cleanup as I'm sitting here reading it and having this conversation. So
Yeah.
we'll try to work on
Yeah,
that today and send you some additional language, and then.
The only red
Look at that
line I
section.
put in that one was under step 4 on section C. I don't know if this cleans it up or not, but the last part where it says, and either party may elect to proceed to conventional arbitration, I put conventional mediation or arbitration. Does that clean it up where if we don't pick mediation, arbitration? And again, I wrote that before I got the clarification earlier, so I don't know if that part works or not.
It's still, I think
Okay.
right now, the way it
Probably
reads in
needs to be in
step
there.
4, it just says you have 15 days to submit to arbitration, and I think
Okay.
we need to clarify that in step 4.
Okay.
And then there's a typo with that second paragraph about choosing not to. So we'll look
Yeah,
at
and
cleaning it
we're-
up, and
I think we're on the same
yeah,
page with what
Becky's
we're trying to
correct on what the
accomplish on
intent was,
that.
and I think we're all in agreement. We'll
Okay.
just make sure the words say that.
Okay.
Exactly. And we want the words to say that, so you don't have to come back and look at this record and hear what we have to say all over.
Right.
All right, so going down to, it's an unnumbered article. I assume it would eventually be Article 26 or something, but we've got appointed positions, and my understanding is we'll have some conversation about that today.
Yes, that'll tie into staffing.
And.
I'm gonna propose that be Article 27, because Article 26, which I do have prepared for a TA today, was gonna be and I think we've already agreed to it, tell me if I'm wrong, but the procedure for filling the positions for beginning firefighters, it has the lateral hiring language that we had agreed to previously.
Oh, yeah,
We talked about
yeah.
the last meeting, and I think we were in agreement, but we never prepared an actual TA on it, so
Yeah.
I brought one, but if you wanna look at it again and let me know. So I think
Okay.
I have that drafted as Article 26.
I don't know if article numbers entirely matter right now or not, do they? I mean,
No, if we're cross-referencing anything, because some other articles have
Okay.
cross-references, I'm trying to get it clean,
Okay.
just so we don't.
I had it
have any
structured a little
errors.
different, but it's the
Okay.
same thing.
Okay.
I mean,
OCD about organization.
I was gonna say
so-
lateral hires, I would probably, lateral hires and appointed positions, I probably want more in the middle up higher in the contract as opposed to the very end.
That's exactly where it was, hovering
Um,
around promotions and probation, so.
That's fine.
I kind of look at the contracts like hiring,
Yeah.
promotions, discipline. It's kind of the life of your career
Yeah.
in a way.
I think, and that's exactly how I had it worded. I think I have like staffing is one number, and then like probation, promotions, appointed positions, beginning positions was before probation, so
Look
kind
at us,
of.
Brian. We're talking about end of contract finalization right here.
I think,
So.
I think we're close.
All right, so appointed positions we'll discuss today, and my understanding, and I know funding obligations also ties into staffing, but we're fairly close on funding obligations as well, if not there.
I was under the impression that we were just about good on funding obligations. We took out that last section. Like there were 3 sections, there were like A, B, and C or something. I think the counter you guys gave back just took out C, which was cool, and we changed like one word to like any change or something like that, or.
Yes, I think the only thing was, and it's, when we get to the staffing article, you'll see it in there, but, you know, I had attempted to clean up the language when we talked about a RIF, just making it clear that the RIF kind of keys on to the funding obligations article. So you had
Yeah.
mentioned putting it in the funding obligations article. I kept it in the staffing article and just have it keyed off, you know, referencing back to that funding article. So if we don't feel the need to move it to the funding obligations article,
Yeah.
then I think it's fine.
That's exactly what I put
Okay.
in our staffing proposal, was referencing funding obligations, so.
Perfect. Okay, so that's it for my inventory list. We can dive in, but and I know my opinion doesn't really matter, but this is my first time here, so I just wanted to kind of give my observations of what I'm seeing. And I was able to watch the last video session, and I really thought the conversations that the parties had with each other was great and wonderful, and I hope that we can continue to have those conversations today. And really just to highlight, not so much what the city's doing, but to actually congratulate y'all and praise y'all for the amount of work that you've accomplished in the first year contract. Getting 174, becoming a legally binding entity that can actually bind the city of Irving in a contract, locking in benefits and terms and conditions that's not up for grabs at the end of budget year. Those are huge accomplishments, those are huge wins. And then when we're talking now, we're about to talk about staffing standards. We knew from the very get-go that having a larger strength of force was one of y'all's top priorities. And I've represented a bunch of cities, Lowell's represented a bunch of cities since, the dinosaur times. And I want him to rewatch this one day. And I can tell you that, like, as a matter of principle, typically when it comes to the strength of force, it's a management rights that our clients will hold on to for dear life. And right off the bat, it is something that we wanted to meet y'all there with. And so wanted to thank you, Brian, specifically for your candid conversation at the last meeting, and because it really, it puts things into perspective for us. And so as we go through this contract, and I don't want when we get into the weeds, basically, I don't want to lose the forest for the trees at how much y'all have accomplished and how much both parties have accomplished in this process. And I mean, the 41 new firefighters over 4 years, of course, locking in the benefits, pay protections, discipline options that might be more fair for y'all, and things like that. So to dive right in, unless you have any additional comment, but we can just dive right into Article 14. All right.
No, thank you.
Okay, so we sent over Article 14. We got our staffing standards here. What you'll see is that we've changed the beginning of Section 2. So we made it a little more stronger, to put it in layman's terms, gave it a little more teeth, right? So for the purposes of implementing 4-person staffing, who shall be assigned to work on fire apparatus, right? The number of additional civil service positions to be added to the fire department shall occur as follows. We have decided to go add in 4 civil service positions in the first year on top of the 8 additional admin positions. Now, what you'll see and then the second year, 10 additional civil service positions, and of course, C stayed the same as our last proposal, 14, and then D, 13. And then what you'll see in that last paragraph there, right above section 3, is we reference 6 additional civil service positions. We're only referencing the civil service positions in this case, but I can tell you on the record, 2 additional, for full 8 admin positions will be added, so it can support the additional firefighter positions that are going to come in through the course of the contract. And then also in section 3, just to be explicitly clear, that if we do any sort of reduction in force, we're just following 143. We're not changing, we're not trying to make it any easier for us or harder or anything like that. We're just following the baseline statute for the reduction in force.
And again, to clarify, only if it's necessary to do a proportionate reduction as outlined in the funding article.
No, I appreciate that part, giving us the ability to at least have the conversation before we start making cuts, I think is important. So, I appreciate that part in there. As far as this goes, I mean, I just had one question, and I think some of the other guys have some questions, but just looking at this, the 4 additional positions this first fiscal year, I guess, so that would be set up like, so we'd hire 4 additional people off this next list. We may not see them on trucks until whatever they're done with school and stuff, right? So there's a little lag period in there. Okay.
I would think it would follow your standard hiring procedures, right, Chief?
Okay. And
That's correct.
okay.
It has to be approved in the budget first, so. right,
Correct.
yes.
Yeah. You know I've expressed this to you guys, before. I mean, the way I read this sounds more like a hiring article than a staffing article, but I'm gonna.
Because what we'll have to do, right, is
Yeah.
we're putting this in the contract, but then we'll have to create an ordinance and fill in those ranks of how, we're having 41 new people, but we're going to open up the strength of force for the battalion chiefs, for all the additional ranks. So it might look like a hiring article, but it's really just the baseline. We're getting 41 new bodies in because they've got to go through the civil service process, but it's allowing for promotional opportunity because we have to open up the strength of force for the other ranks.
Now, the way, I guess the intent behind this of putting 4 people on equipment, as far as like ranks goes, I mean, they should all be firefighters, correct? I mean, our remaining spots are just firefighters. But I'm going to turn it over to Jeremy. He's got some questions on this one.
I'm with Brian as far as it looking like a hiring model, and I don't know why we're having such a breakdown on that. We already have in our current policies staffing models, and they look very different. For instance, our overtime policy says our minimum staffing levels are 43 members per battalion. Seems pretty simple. What we are looking to do is raise those numbers to get those trucks to have 4 people. Are we at least kind of tracking?
We are committed to putting 4 people on a truck.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, follow with me. I mean, it's written this way for a reason, because you can hire that with overtime. We're trying to give the city flexibility. You can hire it anyway, but these aren't just positions. These are positions in the field staffing the apparatus, and it's just very clear. So regardless if you hire at the 1.5 model, the 1.1 model, that is not what we're here for. What we're looking is to deliver service to the citizens with 4 people on apparatus. And this language makes that very clear, how many people have to be there every day, not how many people are employed by the department.
I agree with what you're saying, Cap, because in our policy, you're right, we do refer to minimum staffing, okay? But looking at it from a budgetary issue and people that are not in our world, they don't understand the minimum staffing per day. And even though it looks simple to us, you're looking at minimum staffing per shift times 3 shifts times whatever you need to cover for those accrued times, whether it's, like you said, 1.1 or 1.5. So rather than going down that road of dissecting those numbers out like that, it's simpler for budget, and the way they work it into the budget, they made it very clear at your request, actually, to put fire apparatus in there. these people will be on a fire apparatus, and they're looking at putting 4 into service this year, and then, of course, the 10 next year, 14 and 13. So they will all go on fire apparatus, as explained in the paragraph. We can make that minimum staffing per policy in our department, how we're going to do that. We got to sit down and determine where they're going to go, when they're going to go there, what apparatus first, and all those things need to come into place in discussion.
Yes, sir.
They're not going to get into that discussion. That'll be our discussion. And so I think it's easier for budget to say, okay, you're getting X amount of people this year. They have to go on a fire apparatus. Y'all go figure out where you're going to put them. And I think that's the discussion that we're having.
I just have one comment on what you said, like, I don't feel like we need to be a part of the process of where they go. I think as fire administration, as long as they're going on fire equipment, if you feel like this engine or this truck needs it more, that's in management rights, that's your guys' deal.
And I
We
appreciate that.
want nothing to do with that. We just want bodies on equipment. However you see fit, it is on you.
I appreciate that. And
yeah.
and I've always been an advocate for 4 firefighters, always.
Yes, sir. I don't
And
disagree.
so I don't think this language is going to keep us from doing that. Matter of fact, it actually tells me, Chief, you have to put them on a fire apparatus, period. It's in the contract. And so I think that is made very clear in the verbiage.
Yes, and the only other thing I would add to what the chief said is, when we kind of looked at this article, we had been looking at the chief's 5-year plan for the department, and the way that plan had been, his goal has been to get 4-person staffing too. And so one of the goals was, how was that laid out? And when that was presented to council and to the city manager's office, that was presented as hiring these additional FTEs, because that's boils down to dollars and cents of what those bodies cost. And so,
Yes, ma'am.
from a contract standpoint, if the city manager is going to commit and the city's going to commit to hire those people, this just helps us identify how many so that we know the cost and can evaluate that.
I think just to, just speak candidly, I mean, I guess this is how we've been able to get stuff done. I think, you brought up a point that you guys knew we were going to bring up staffing. I mean, we've been having the discussion for years. I think from our perspective, where a little bit of the frustration was everybody knew staffing was coming. Yeah, we still, and again, admin is criminally understaffed. We are all on board with that. But knew was coming, and then we chose in the budget process to fund these 8 admin positions. Like I said, we're past that now. It's already in the budget. It is what it is. I get that part. But both sides knew it was coming, and then to see all the admin positions without staffing, I think, and again, I understand your guys' point. I'm just trying to get you guys to understand our perspective, where some of the frustration on our end came from. But we want to get it done. We're going to try and work with you guys and get this done. We get it. We're late in the budget process. Totally understand that. But everybody knew staffing was going to be in there. And we chose admin positions in the budget instead of admin and staffing. We're trying to fix it right now and make it work. Like I said, just trying to have you guys understand our perspective. We're
Understood.
committed to making
Yeah.
this work.
Yeah, and we all know time's hasn't been on anybody's side relative to the budget process and when all of our negotiations began. So, I think, it shows the commitment of the city to go ahead and front load some of those positions in this upcoming
Yeah.
fiscal year, knowing we're gonna have to make that change to the budget between now and September 18th.
Like I said, I totally get it.
Yeah.
We are trying to get this done. Like I said, I think the honesty and candid conversation is what is really helping us move through this process. That's the only reason I wanted to express
Yes.
our perspective and how we felt like this whole process was going, just so you guys understand our position, why we're passionate about this one.
Hopefully, let me add a little more clarity to it, because this admin staffing model did not come into play this year. I asked for it last year. That's how we got the captain over our EMS and we got the purchasing agent. It was limited on what we got, but we went out and did a survey and compared to 4 other departments our size: Arlington, Plano, Laredo, Lubbock. And not only were we behind in some of our overtime staffing, we were behind in our administrative staffing on an average of 22 people. So that's when it became clear, and that was before you ever went out or even came to me and let me know you were going to even consider collective bargaining. So that, I made that change way before collective bargaining came into our discussion.
Yeah, and like I said, we're all in agreement.
Okay.
Need the people down, admin. Just wanted our perspective on it, and we totally get it, fully support people in admin. Like I said, just wanted to express where our hangups been, but.
That's where Brian passed it to me. I want to take this opportunity to, like Chief said, this is a world that we live in, and so we understand it. And if you guys don't, I would love to explain it. But unlike some positions in the city, if our people don't show, someone has to ride in that spot. That's why it makes a difference. So that's why hiring isn't interesting to us. In order to deliver service, we have to have bodies. And that's why the language, even this language, which I get that you're trying to make it work, doesn't work on our end. We need to know how many people, at a minimum, we're going to have to run the department each day. So not how many people you hire, because all 4 of these guys can call in sick. And then we don't have them. Correct?
Do you want to explain your experience in the past? I think you brought up Duncanville, right? You had that scenario.
Yeah, and that, maybe a whole nother thing, but I worked at another department. They had 4 men until they didn't, because they didn't have a minimum standard or minimum staffing standard per day. Okay, and things changed. That's where the funding obligations and these other things come into play. But for us to deliver the service to the citizens with 4 people, we have to be assured that those bodies are going to be on apparatuses every day. Not that they were hired and the intent is for them to be. Does that make sense? Like an ambulance needs 2 people. If one calls in, we never run it with 1 guy. That person, we have to overtime hire 1 million people. That part doesn't matter to us. We have to have 2 people on an ambulance. So that's what we're trying to get at with this article. We are trying to say, hey, we get it, and we want to give as much flexibility to the city and the chief. We're not asking where you put them. But we're asking, in order to get the fleet to 4 man on everything, we have to have a minimum per day and not employed on fire equipment. And that's why the language matters.
And just to touch on his point a little bit, looking at the other contracts around the state, I haven't seen them written this way as far as staffing goes. Most of the other contracts I've seen basically say a minimum number of people on equipment. And I think that's the point he was getting at, was without that minimum, if people call in sick, for example, there's nothing in here that says that will hire overtime to backfill that position. And I think the concern again with this one is then our minimum staffing numbers could potentially be changing on a daily basis. If people call in sick, if there's no minimum staffing spelled out somewhere, then there's some fluctuation.
So I have a question
Yeah.
as I'm trying to understand the minimum daily staffing. Because we know that if we get agreement on this contract and we sign it October 1, we can't have a minimum daily staffing October 2nd that gets to whatever number y'all are envisioning. And so I guess my question is, under your proposal, what would be the timeline that we could get to the minimum daily staffing numbers that you were initially
Ours was
proposing?
It was still presented 4 years. I believe the last.
I don't mean on the back end, I mean on the front end, like if we do October 1, we're not gonna have minimum
Right.
daily staffing to go up to 89 people to the next day.
What if we,
Proposal was 87.
Okay, well, whatever the number was, I'm just saying, we can't do that in a day.
what
You
if
have to be
we,
fully-
We
you have to
don't
be
have
full-
enough
Yeah, you have to-
people.
you have
We
to-
need
You have to be
bodies.
fully staffed at that point for 4 persons
well,
to
so
If I can ask, you want that?
we have.
my question clear? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Okay.
So we do have people signing up every day for overtime. I mean, like, we don't have to hire people. Like, there's guys that'll volunteer to fill those spots.
We're currently, and Brian brought this up in a prior meeting, we currently have the staff for 86. So again, this was a concession that we were trying to make for the city because we understand everybody's trying to get the dollars. We had hired for 86, so to get to 87, right, 1 more person per apparatus per day, that's 3 people. You guys are saying 4 civil service positions. We're wanting to make that daily minimum staffing 87, which prior to November is just 1 more person per day than we currently have. So we're trying to be incredibly flexible because we understand that chief needs his admin positions. But we also have to take a contract to our men that says, and our women, that we're gonna have the bodies on the apparatus.
I think what Jeremy's trying to get at is we're trying to do the same thing. I think our heads are just, thinking about two different ways. We're thinking bodies and seats, you guys are thinking X number of people. I think the message we're trying to convey is however you guys want to do those people, it's totally up to you. If you want to fill it with overtime for a year, cool, that's your thing. While people are going through school, if you want to hire those people, that's your thing. Like, I think what he's saying is from our perspective, we're just looking for bodies and seats. However you guys go about doing that, entirely up to you. Ideally, over time, we would be hiring the people we need to, so we don't end up using a ton of overtime, 4 or 5 years down the road. But we understand that if it gives you the ability, like if you have a little bit of time where you need to hire people, or maybe one year you need to slow it down, like I can tell you right now, we have no shortage of people signing up for overtime. Like guys are willing to work, and they're going to be reasonable with that.
Several times in the past couple weeks, and this is another part of our business that's kind of proprietary to us, and so I just want to take a chance to explain it. So with that 1.5 model, it covers Kelly days, sick leave, overtime, vacation, et cetera. But there are days where we have more bodies than this minimum staffing asks for. In reality, the city is wasting money every day there is an extra body over minimum. Does that make sense?
So the other day, for example, it was not last C shift, but the C shift before, something like that. I think every piece of fire equipment in the city had 4 on it, and the battalion chiefs had command techs on it. Like, we had that many people. So in our scenario where there's a daily minimum staffing number, you wouldn't have to hire overtime for that day. If we had hired people, then where are they going to go? We're going to put 6 or 7 people on equipment. We don't even have spots for it. So that does happen. I mean, it's not a super common occurrence, but actually, it's been common.
So the summer ended, people were done vacation, and kids were back in school. There's these few windows, and Chief's spoken about them during the vacation article. We have a few spots where people just aren't off, it's not a advantageous time to vacation or do whatever. And so on those days, my point was, it's not very often, but there are times when the city actually has more people. So we're not that far off, if that makes any sense, to getting to that daily number. And by using that number as your staffing article, you never have extra. You never have more than you are asking for. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, Jeremy, but let me just add my 2 cents from administration. We have to look at it annually. What we're spending on overtime, as you probably know, we exceed our overtime every year. And so therefore, that does not stand to reason with what you're saying, that we have a lot of people that are available on multiple days. In addition to that, you've had people within your association complain to the council about mandatory overtime. So it's not that it had never been a problem that I've forced you to work overtime. And you came and you complained to council. You went around me and complained to council about it. Me writing a policy to force you to work overtime. So it's not all gravy that we're talking about here. We got extra people in the land of milk and honey. It's not how it works downtown.
If I'm portraying it that way.
It may happen every once in a while out in the field, and we just kicked out like 12 or 13 that finished up recruit school. So yeah, you've got some extra people out there. You're going to turn right around, you're going to have people retire.
Yes, sir.
And then you're going to have new positions where we have to send them to school. And all those things are covering up, trying to make it like water in a vessel. It's going to sink the lowest level where it's even across the
Yes,
board.
sir.
And so
We're not questioning the opportunity. I'm just trying for someone that's not in our industry to help them understand that there are times that the bodies are there. And so you're trying to, you're quantifying how many people. Some days that's none.
And
Extra.
I think what, from a contractual standpoint, when we enter into a contract as a city, we have to have funds on hand, and we have to know what those costs are. Otherwise, the contract is unconstitutional. And so we can we can identify the costs associated with hiring 4 additional personnel in this FY. It sounds like the overtime costs are a huge unknown factor, and I think that is the concern of if we agree to a minimum daily staffing number, we could be taking on and absorbing additional overtime costs that are unknown to us today as we sit here and enter into this contract.
So I think what we're trying to get at is we're not saying you have to use overtime. I mean, you could hire the people if you want. And looking at the math, like with our proposal for minimum staffing, the numbers as far as like hiring people, like if you just want to hire the people, the numbers add up to the same.
Right, but again, we can't do them I mean, when I asked about if we do a contract October 1, when you expect us to get to your minimum daily staffing number, if that's 87, and you say we'll fill it with overtime, then that says that as of October 1, we have to have those minimum daily staffing numbers met every single day.
Now, I
And I
guess,
think that is the challenge when we're talking about, we anticipate hiring people to fill those positions, not using what we have today.
so on that, I guess the question I have for you is, if we were to do a minimum staffing number like we're proposing, could we make it so that section doesn't start October 1, and we give you a couple months to get the people hired, get them through school and stuff, and we can figure out how long that process takes, so that way there's the known cost in there. I mean, we're trying to do the same thing, but I'd be willing to delay it a little bit if we need to, if that's what it takes to hire the people or whatever. But like I said, from our perspective, the minimum staffing language is important, but I also understand the budget side for you. So I have to talk to them a little, I have to talk to them about that part, but just kind of riffing off the top of my head, would that work if we just delayed that article?
Yeah, I don't know, we'll have to talk about that too. I'm
Okay.
just saying, I don't see any scenario in which we can agree to a minimum daily staffing number that takes place October 1 of this, in 6
Less
weeks
than
from
30
now.
days, yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
That is gonna be a huge challenge.
I totally agree with that, understand that.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm thinking if we can figure out how long it takes to get somebody hired and through school, maybe we just delay the minimum staffing instead of October 1 to March 1st or something like that. And then we have our minimum staffing, you guys get your people hired as you see fit. We're not using overtime until they're online kind of thing. I think October 1, we understand that's close. I think maybe that'd be a good discussion worth having to see if we can maybe just delay that article for whatever, if we need 6 months or whatever it may be.
Hey, Brian, may I ask a question? I know right now you're using Fire Station 9 personnel. So that's not going to be built for another year. So you're going to still have that staff available until we build a new Fire Station 9. So I think that fills the gap you're talking about. So I really don't see what the issue is.
And that's what Jeremy was saying was when I initially brought it up, on paper, we technically have 86 people minimum per day because before Fire Station 9. When Fire Station 9 went offline, that number went down to 84, which is why we proposed 87, was we still on paper have 86. So we're just looking for one more. We're utilizing those 2 extra people from Station 9 to fill some of those other spots. So that's why that part was brought up. And I don't know, it's kind of confusing discussing it. I wish Rich was here so he can pull out the whiteboard and start frantically writing on it, because I think it makes more sense if you can like visually see what we're talking about. Maybe I'm not, explaining it correctly, but on paper we have 86 per day. Minimum staffing is only 84. So that's why the 87 proposal was essentially going up only one person from what's already on paper. As far as go ahead.
Just ask clarification, Janet, you can speak to this. With the statement in there being fiscal year 25, 26, does that give latitude in there to say it needs to be completed by 26 or the start of 26, 27?
So, I mean, once we're saying that they're budgeted, right, then we'd have to go through the hiring process. So I'm trying to answer your question clearly, but obviously, once the budget gets adopted and passed, that budget takes effect October 1.
Right.
And so if these positions are authorized in the council adopted budget, once they're authorized, then we would go through the process of hiring those additional 4-person. I mean, it does, 4 people. To your point, I guess a little bit, Daniel, it doesn't clarify when they're exactly
Yeah,
getting
just
hired.
in that window
Because, right, we have
They
to,
could be, they could be terminated before they meet their probation, right?
Right.
It's, we're guaranteeing
Right.
to have those
These
4
positions.
slots. And
Right.
then
Yeah.
143 requires us to fill them with qualified candidates that
Correct.
meet all those elements.
Right.
And so we cannot guarantee that they'll be full, because we can't guarantee who's going to apply, but we
Right.
can guarantee that we'll open those 4 slots in the budget.
Right.
and
That
when we
makes
hire
sense.
them, we're using them only to put on apparatus. I mean, that is our commitment,
Yeah,
once they
Thank-
get hired.
yeah. I mean, me personally, I feel, we are trying to do the same
know.
thing. I think our heads work different. You know, we're just firemen. We see it as bodies on the seat, and obviously you guys have to, for the sake of the city, see it as a dollar value. So I totally get that. Like I mentioned, I think maybe it'd be a conversation worth having upstairs about delaying it, like we've done in the other articles, for example, like promotions. That doesn't start till January of '26. Probation doesn't start till, like, I mean, we have done that where there's a different effective date, and we'd be willing to work around that. I don't think we're
Yeah.
entirely far off on this. We want the same thing, just 2 different trains of
Just
thought
because I
on
don't
it.
have it in front of me, as we go back and discuss this article some more, can y'all refresh all of our memory about, I know, Jeremy, you said it was 87 this FY, and then what was?
Yeah,
then
so
what were the
I'll-
numbers each
I'll
FY?
resend it to you.
Okay, that's- I just-
But it was, so basically it was, first fiscal year was 87.
Yep,
And then it increased by 3 every
3
year.
per year, okay.
So,
Which, from a budgeting standpoint, would be 9 FTEs.
yeah, so it actually ends up, our proposal ends up being a little less than, your guys' proposal as far as, the, second, third, and fourth year goes. Or actually, it's about the same, because if you guys choose to hire 1.5, that ends up being 13.5, so it's about 14, so I'll email you what I'm talking about, and then,
That was helpful, I just needed to refresh my memory, it's been a
Yeah,
while since
what-
I saw that.
Chief
what-
Conley, can you help me understand what, with this language, what the 4 people being on apparatus would look like if we don't alter the daily minimum standard?
I will go back and explain it from the beginning, where administration and management over here do not get into our policy on when we hire, when we implement 4 minimum staffing per apparatus, when it's covered by overtime, when we have extra people in the field. All that is our duty to take care of in the fire department.
Yes, sir.
They're implementing 4 additional staffing positions and then turning the money over to us to run our department. Don't come back asking for any more, okay? That's basically how it's working.
Yes, sir.
I'm trying to come up with some verbiage that works for you guys as well as us. And so therefore, what if, and I'm just throwing this out there because I need to have this discussion with my boss before it's solidified, but the opening sentence is very clear, for the purpose of 4-person staffing. So if you want to put in there, implementing minimum 4-person staffing who shall be assigned to work on fire apparatus, we can add minimum. If you want to go to fiscal year 25-26 where we're hiring the 4, we can put 1 apparatus after that. That's all 4 is going to get you, is 1 apparatus with your minimum staffing, what you're talking about. Understand that part? 4 people is 1 apparatus.
Yes, sir.
Okay. The
Are you
second
talking
year-
about specifying which apparatus that
No,
is?
no, I don't want them to do that for us.
Sure.
We're gonna have 1 apparatus that's gonna have 4. And if you go to year 2, when we hire 10, that's gonna get 2 apparatus. And you go to year 3 with 14, that'll get 3 apparatus. We can add apparatus after that without them getting into our minimum staffing per day and what we're doing within the fire service, and it still addresses your concern of having an additional 1 fire apparatus gets 4 on it that year.
Well,
The next year will get 2 of them, and the next year we'll get 3 of them based upon these numbers. and we're looking at 1.5 ratio.
Yeah, I think Jeremy's concern was if it doesn't, and I get it, they don't have anything to do with department policy, but I think where his concern's coming from is if it's not spelled out, like I said, if it seems like the staffing could fluctuate, like let's say people call in sick, that fourth guy on the truck, like if he was there yesterday and somebody calls in sick the next day, because we're not spelled out in the contract that that has to be filled.
But
It can,
if you're adding one apparatus to the number of ones that we have now, you know, we've got truck 3, we've got central, we've got station 10, engine 10, we've got truck 12. We can go down the list of the pieces that we have right now, and we're adding one more. No matter where it's at, we're gonna add one more.
yeah, and I think we, like I mentioned before, we all know the goal is staffing. I mean, you guys have made that clear in actions in the past. We've increased staffing. I think what we're trying to do is have that basically black and white in writing, eliminate some of that gray area.
We'll have that discussion in caucus, but I do believe we can get there as long as we spell out how many pieces of equipment that is.
Yeah.
Then it's just a math problem. If you say, hey, this fiscal year, we're gonna have 10 apparatus with 4 on it, and I'm making the numbers up.
Yeah.
Then I think we can get to the same place.
Yeah, I don't want to get into the area to where management's having to look at, okay, well, you got 4 on everything today, so why don't you send some people home? You know?
Absolutely.
You know, and I don't want them to get into, well, you finally got 4, you got enough trained where you can implement it in July. I may want to implement it in January if I can see in the budget that we can handle that.
Sure.
So I don't want to get into too many specifics here. All we're looking for is for the CFO to find the money to implement these people, then we will put them to work. And the whole objective is this staffing model is we're on the same page. We want 4 on each piece of equipment. And we've been going down that road for years trying to get 4.
Yes, sir.
Now, this hurries it along, and therefore, I'm not looking to reduce that. And so if we can add some verbiage in there that, this will cover 1 apparatus, this will cover 2, then we'll go down that road. But what I don't want to get caught up in is management or City Hall or the finance office dictating, well, you've got more people, less people, you need to start here instead of there, and when are they going to be trained? What if we hire them, they're already trained? Does that mean we can't staff it until March or
Right.
April? I don't want to go down that road.
Yeah, I agree. I think if we can specify the number of apparatuses, that gets us to where we want to be.
Well, that's simple. We can add that, but let me talk to my boss about it and make sure he's clear with it and he's good with it. But, to go down the road of minimum staffing it's not their world, and they don't want to have to manage that on a day-to-day basis. They expect me to manage that.
It sounds like we all just kind of need to separately caucus
Yeah.
and then figure out the math number on the number of equipment, because I can't do that right now in my
Yeah.
head. I'm sure the chief can, but I can't. So, yeah, I think it sounds like we have something to really just work on a little bit more, but I think we're gonna get there.
yeah, I think we're on the same page on this. We're just, again, our firefighter brains work a little differently, so. But yeah, I think good discussion on that, kind of clean it up in caucus a little bit, and I think we're,
And Brian, just remember, there were no 4 positions. We added that just recently, so
yeah.
that's a huge.
100%, like I said, I mean, we appreciate that, and like I said, I've never, I hope I've expressed this clearly the entire meetings. I mean, I've never once doubted your guys' commitment to getting staffing done. You've made it very clear in the past. We've made great progress, not just on staffing, but paying benefits and everything. This administration, this building has done a tremendous job of advancing us way faster than we thought we would. So there's no doubt in my mind you guys are committed. We're just trying to make sure we're all understanding the same thing, and it's worded in a way that I think works, in the long term, especially when we're talking, 4 years, just making sure we're nailing down the details. But I just want to be clear. I don't doubt for a second you guys are not committed to this. I mean, you've proven that to us over the last several years, so appreciate the discussion on that one.
Okay, and then other than that, on the language I added in section 3, on the keying it off of the funding article, do you have anything on that, or you're good with that language?
No, I mean, that's basically,
Okay.
so I sent you the staffing one. That's basically the exact word for word, same language I have in the one I sent you. So I think we're on the same page on that one. I'm good. And
Want to
then-
move on to another article?
Yeah,
So that was staffing. Did you want to talk about maintenance standards? I'm just kind of looking at my list, or certain
Or
incentive
we can do
pay?
certain incentive pay. I
yeah,
know
I
we
mean.
sent you something, y'all
yeah,
sent us something back.
Let's knock out the ones that I think are gonna be pretty quick.
Okay.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree. I think, we had made movement on that from our last proposal after we kind of heard from you all at the last meeting about some of the concerns about, not wanting to reduce what people are getting today. So, we kind of went back and looked at that a little more closely. And so what we put on the table, we think is really fair. It is an increase, but it also is based on rank, and the chief, although he just stepped out, but he'll speak to it when he comes back. The chief, I think, likes that because it really, there's more, as he's articulated it, there's more responsibility, obviously, that comes with those administrative assignments based on the rank of the officers. And so that was the reason why we kind of did varied amounts based on the officers.
Yeah, and we
Rank.
appreciate, looking at the Swiftwater and going up.
Oh, yes, and we did,
putting the
yeah, increase
investigator in
that.
there.
And I put
Thank
arson
you.
back in, yes.
The only, I guess the big question I had on assignment pay was, does it read section 5, does it read contradictory to itself? Because it says employees below the rank of assistant chief qualify for assignment pay, and then assistant chiefs included in the assignment pay. So our thought process was, when you go to,
Since chief is back, will you
yeah.
just re-ask that question again?
Yeah,
Sorry.
so I'll-
Chief, we're talking about a certification and incentive pay article.
so I was,
Do you have a copy of it, chief? We're looking at section 5
I think,
specifically.
you talking about the admin pay?
yeah, so I was, you left the room, but I appreciate going up on Swiftwater. I think we're good with that.
Good, good.
Glad you caught the investigator that I left out, so I appreciate you correcting me on that one. The only question I had was under section 5, the administrative pay. Does it currently reads contradictory to itself, because the line above says employees below the rank of assistant chief qualify for pay, and then assistant chief is included in the pay.
Oh,
And
okay.
Just clean
no,
up
no,
We can clean that up.
yeah,
the following, just strike that.
and
Yeah.
I'm
Right here.
fine.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm fine with the graduated. Like I said, the initial, or the proposal I just sent you guys an hour or so ago, just provided consistency if that's what you guys were looking for across the board. But I'm up for whatever. Personally wish a non-officer was a little higher. Like I said, that's the same number from 2009. But it's, I get it. We're trying to make staffing work. I totally understand, so I'm not trying to,
We put all our eggs in that
And we're-
basket.
I know, I'm not trying to push on a bunch of little stuff here and there, because I get it all adds up.
Yeah,
But,
we're trying to graduate those according to the responsibilities
Yeah.
as well. And the reason assistant chief, and I still think we should leave that in there, is because when we have people like that retire and I bring somebody in for acting positions, I'm putting them out wherever I bring them in from. And we've done that in the past. I've actually brought battalion chiefs from out of the
Right.
field to come in and act as an assistant chief till that promotion is made. So I
Right.
think we should leave that verbiage in there and override what our
So-
current policy
Yeah.
is. It's not that big of an impact.
So, I don't think we have a huge issue with that, but that kind of brings me to the next question. The line underneath where it says working a permanent assignment, so if they go down there temporarily, they wouldn't qualify for that. So if you bring somebody down there temporarily to cover for an assistant chief or battalion chief, they wouldn't, I get what you're trying to do. You're trying to get them so they come down there temporarily, they're going to get that pay. But then again, the next line contradicts that, where unless they're permanently down there, they're not going to get that. So I guess that's just what I'm trying to get at, is like all three lines
Yeah.
kind of contradict each other.
Yeah.
So,
They could be ultimately permanent, you know, I'm just saying, we've done that like with Chief Harvey, when he filled in when, who was it that retired? Evetts, I believe it was. When Evetts retired, Chief Harvey came in and did a stint as an acting assistant chief, and then he rolled right into a permanent assistant chief.
Now,
I have a question
Would it-
for
would
the
it-
chief. I mean, this might be a dumb question, but just to kind of clarify at this point, I'm not a firefighter, but when it says here is employees working a permanent administrative assignment, so they get the assignment, they get this assignment pay when they're a permanent, but if they're there temporarily, would they get some kind of step-up pay? Wouldn't they get some kind of step-up pay for doing that?
but they wouldn't
back
get
pay,
the.
back
They wouldn't get the additional assignment
The
pay.
intent, I think he's trying to do with the assistant chief is then they wouldn't get that pay. So I think in the proposal I sent, it basically struck that line, so it didn't contradict.
Okay,
But, and remember, we also have section 7, the approval process. So I think if we struck the line from section 5 where it says permanent, we have section 7 approval process, which still gives the chief that authority without contradicting itself in the contract.
Yeah, and then you got also the last paragraph that gives me the right per budget, if we can afford it or not, so, yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
So,
I agree with what you're saying.
okay. And then, so, I guess the first line would just have to say something like employees qualify for assignment pay in accordance with the following, and then that line under the box would just be struck out, and then that cleans it up.
just fully strike that line.
And I had a duplicate 350 when I sent it to you on the assignment administrative pay, but it should be 250 for non, 300 for lieutenants and captains, and 350 for bat chiefs and assistant chiefs.
Yeah, I
Okay.
suppose.
There was an extra 350,
Yeah.
so I'll clean that up too, and then we'll
Okay.
strike those two things, and
We thought you were trying to give them 700.
No, I don't know if they need that, but,
I'm good on that.
no, yeah, like I said,
always check me on math. I'm a
Yeah.
lawyer, y'all.
like I said, appreciate the catch from the investigator and coming up on the Swift bar a little bit. I think that'll make everybody happy. I think this is, when we get that cleaned up, I think this will be good to go. So, like I said, I think this article, more than anything, we went back and forth here at the table getting done. So I think that was a good part, just talking through it, so.
What do you guys want to talk about next?
So,
Or if
I
we-
can hit on, I guess the vacation leave briefly, because it's probably gonna require maybe some research. Let me pull it up real quick. Maybe not. I don't work the battalion chief side, so I don't know the answer to it. So I think the 90%, 10%, all that stuff makes sense. We'll have to educate people a little bit, but I think it makes sense. So looking at B shift vacation, for example, I just did the math. We're already gonna hit that trigger. Our battalion chiefs is telestaff. Can they open up only 6 months at a time? I've asked, but I don't know the answer. It sounds like they can't. And my fear is if they can't do it, then we go down a contract violation route, which I don't want to do, trying to prevent us from going down that route. Is that part possible?
Well, that's a software question, and I can't answer it, but I would think either way, we've set the parameters out, whether it's software or it's an Excel spreadsheet or
Sure.
whatever, that those 6 months that aren't hit the most get activated first. And so you're exactly right when you look through this. I mean, one shift had 122 openings out of 854 slots. So of course, they were well above the 10%, but the other two were down in the 70s. So you're right. Once this goes in effect, we automatically will go back and have to open up those 6 months
Yeah.
according to contract.
And that was my only question was,
Yeah.
does it work on telestaff or not? I'm trying to avoid any sort of potential, like I said.
Chief, we had discussed implementation, and that was one thing that kind of piggybacks on this. Like, we just got done picking for this upcoming fiscal year. So can we put in the contract that this evaluation happen at a date so that those spots are available when individuals are picking the first time?
I think what our discussion was going back is we would look at the previous year and look at the percentage.
Yes,
and
sir.
open them up accordingly.
But that would unfortunately, we pick,
Right, he's talking about reopen, like if you look back,
Yeah,
if the
but-
contract is approved effective October 1, and we looked back for the past 12 months, and you saw that it was exceeded the 90%, would there be an opportunity to reopen?
no, ma'am, I'm
No?
not necessarily
Okay.
worried about that. Let's
Okay.
say that this happens next year.
Okay.
There needs to be a date that happens, so that it can't follow the fiscal year, because we pick in late July or early August.
Yeah.
The year hasn't finished.
Well,
So you look at the previous.
Does that make sense? So when our
Right.
guys are
Be
picking,
policy.
It's the previous 12 months is how it's worded. I think we added some language that would based on the prior 12 months usage, previous 12 months usage. So it'd be a look back over a 12-month period.
So what she's saying is when you pick your vacations in August, in July, we should be a look back for 12 months. And if there's an opportunity to open those slots, we open them before you pick in August.
Yeah, but that totally makes sense. I guess my question is, does that need to be in here? I mean, the contract says they will open it. Can that, I guess that'd be up to the department, would it not, on the policy side? I don't know. I mean,
yeah, I'm not certain either. I'm just trying to protect the individuals,
Let's-
because if that need is there, they should have that ability when they pick their vacation.
Let's look at that verbiage when we get back upstairs and see if we can add it in like I just described
Right,
to
so
you.
Yes,
y'all do your vacation picking on
In
the slots
August.
in August.
Yeah.
Every August that occurs.
yeah, for the
Okay.
next, for October
For the
1 to
next-
So what we
September
want to do is
30th.
open that
Open that
slot
slot
up if it's
in-
needed
Right,
that August.
okay, understood, okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
I
no, I
just
got you.
want the members to have the ability on that
At that
first
time,
round.
right, if we're gonna have more slots, we should know it when they're doing their initial selections.
Yes,
is
ma'am.
Your point, okay, understood.
But yeah, I mean, that was basically the question behind that. I mean, it makes sense. I'm trying to avoid any potential conflict, so if we can do it the paper way or whatever works, I mean, I didn't think about that because we're told telestaff all the time, so that works. It makes sense to me, so. Good on that one. Let me find another quick one on here. Okay, we already went over grievance. Yeah, I guess, we can discuss, hang on. Do you want us to go over the promotion one real quick? So again, that one's RTH, so I don't know how we make that work. But Al, do you guys have that in front of you?
I'm gonna pull it up.
I
right
have a draft, I mean, I have the
Okay.
TA that was signed.
now. Yeah, I'm gonna pull it
So-
up right now.
So
ahead.
I'll touch on the dates and stuff in a minute. I'll do the basic one first. Under section 5, sourceless posting, that first line. So it says posted 9 days prior to promotional examinations to be held during the following year. I think to be held during the following year needs to be striked because you're giving them 90 days notice, that's 90 days notice.
Yeah.
That was just an oversight.
I think it should be prior, it's 90 days prior to them being held.
To the test, correct.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
so that was just with the back and forth amendments. I think that one just got overlooked, so That's just an easy cleanup. And like I said, we had some discussions about just bumping it back to October, and then making the list effective January 1 every year. So that still falls within that. It gives some time if the test gets pushed back 10 days or whatever, and then we need to get the commission together. It gives enough grace. And then I think for ease of calculation for everybody knows beginning of January 1st every year, that list is in effect till whatever, December 31st. The next list goes into effect January 1. But by pushing it back from September to October, it helps fall into that 90-day window, I guess, if there's different positions and stuff. Like I said, the initial intent of pushing it to May was so we can try and avoid the summertime. I think September is still a little close. I mean, some guys are going to study for 6 months, some are going to study for a year, some people are going to study for 3 months, but kind of getting into October, for the majority of people that maybe do 3 months or 2 months, it ends up kids are back in school, summer's over. It kind of helps out a little bit, and that would kind of move everything else back 30 days. And then, like I said, from the eligibility list side, it makes it very clear for everybody.
And we were proposing to start this on the 26 test, so it wouldn't affect
Yep.
what you have currently
Yep.
going to get your positions.
Yeah, so it doesn't affect the first test. And that, I think that helps eliminate any sort of extending any list or shortening any list. I get the May one would have caused that issue with being eligible in June. I think moving it to January instead, it all falls within those legally required timeframes, where we can make it kind of work with scheduling and whatnot. And for me personally, I think the consistency part is nice. Hey, I know January 1, the eligibility list is in effect until December 31st at midnight or whatever it may be. It is, it is what it is, instead of math and calculations
So
and stuff.
you're talking about the final promotional list that you have.
The eligibility list, yeah, the certified eligibility list.
The
And
the problem with that is this. Now you've taken the new recruits out of the January class. When it becomes effective January 1, I cannot hire a replacement and get them in school by January the 5th or whatever.
Even using the flex spots, that won't
I
work?
mean, I can use 5 that way.
Okay.
But if you have 10 people that are going to promote,
Okay.
then that backs me up to May, and that backs them up to getting out of school late August, and so I don't get them
Okay.
for a whole year. And that's the problem with the time. What I was trying to do is get a clean break at the end of August, do your test in September. Now the hiring committee knows how many positions to hire, and they've got time to do background checks,
Yeah.
go through the panel, do all the other tests that are required, give a 2-week notice where they work. It takes us about 10 to probably 14 weeks to get somebody hired.
Totally fine. We're
Okay.
fine with leaving it, leave it the way it is. I think that works. At the end of the day, it still provides us a consistency.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the major things was having a date that the exams are certified. Again, kind of living in our space. Right now, we have 2 different days. Well, that can affect someone promoting by nothing other than time. Because if this list runs out and this one's still effective, if this guy doesn't promote, neither does this guy, and that's not really fair. So we want to line them all up one day.
Yeah.
The way it's currently written would do that. So
And I don't know if is it currently written where they all expire August 31st?
No, so it says
No.
the way it's
Or
currently.
September,
It says we're gonna hold
November 1.
effective calendar year 2026. The department is going to do promotional exams as follows: fire equipment operator and fire captains on or about the second Thursday in September.
Okay.
Fire lieutenant and fire bat chiefs on or about the second
So-
Tuesday in September. And then it says the promotional lists become effective November 1.
November 1.
Yeah,
Okay.
so
That still gives us time to hire
Yeah,
people.
we're totally fine with that.
Okay.
We didn't understand that part of it, so we're good with that. We just thought
Okay.
we'd throw that out there. Understand your logic. Makes sense to us.
Why,
Yeah, and it says the certified list remains in effect only until the established written
have we
exam
done the
dates.
hiring article? Is that where we're at, or have we already TA'd?
I think we're about ready to.
On the the initial hiring
Yeah.
procedure, yes. Well, we haven't TA'd it yet, but I have one
Okay,
prepared.
because I'd like to go back and have a discussion on that as far as an expiration date of that
Expiration
list
date.
of August 31st. So what we try to do is it starts getting out of September, and then it rolls into October. If we reset every year at August 31st, we can set our entrance exam in September.
Yeah,
So I'd like
and
to have that
so-
discussion.
Okay,
Yeah, we're, like I said, we're fine with promotions the way it is, except for striking those 6 words. I just figured we'd ask if we're opening it up. Your explanation makes sense to
all
us.
right, we'll
I
get
understand
promotions
why you
cleaned up.
did, though.
Okay, so that
We'll
one,
get that cleaned up.
we're good. Trying to find any of the other easy ones. The investigation and discipline one, are you guys going over that one?
Sure.
Real
Let me
quick?
pull it up.
Let me pull this up. Trying to think of something easy. This one may not be super easy.
Article 21, right?
Mm-hmm. Do you have it? Got it. Yep.
Or, you know what? You guys go doing sick leave first. That one may be easier.
Yeah, I agree. Let's go to an easier
Yeah.
article. That one's,
Try and knock
agree.
out as much as we can before any break.
yep.
lunch.
So let me send you the sick leave real quick. So I mentioned to you guys earlier, I think through all the amendments we proposed, we ended up making it, I'm going to email all for you guys and then you can send it up to whoever. I think we ended up making it worse than city policy somehow. So what I'm emailing you is, let me know when you get it, but I'll kind of cover it real quick. So it is copied and pasted from city policy with some minor changes, and I will go into that. Just let me know when you get it. Well, I mean, there is one minor change and then one big change, but we can do the minor change first.
I don't have it yet, but
Okay,
Becky
so-
might get hers earlier. I have found that when you email internally in the city, sometimes, for some reason, our server, I get it last after Becky and Lowell get it. I don't know why.
Did I send you this?
Okay,
No,
I have it now.
I guess let me get Mr. Tellez a copy as well, so he knows what we're looking at.
Might be important.
I was gonna let you just figure it out.
like that?
Let me get you guys the correct. Let me get you guys the correct one also. So on the Google Drive, there's a little issue. I just emailed it to you guys in a Word doc, so you should be able to see it. So I'll kind of go over real quick. So again, I'm going to skip over the copy and pasted stuff from city policy and go where the changes are.
okay.
So first change we looked at was documentation, section 5B. So, changing it from 60 hours to 120 in a 12-month rolling period for a sick note. And this recommendation actually came from the interim HR director at the time. And looking at other contracts, there's a little higher threshold for the sick notes. I'm good with just, if we don't want to do consecutive, that's fine. We just want to do rolling 12-month. I'm good with that, but I think just increasing the threshold a little bit on the requirement, kind of like I've mentioned it a bunch of times in the past, We make the life and death decisions all the time. I don't think we need a sick note if I'm just not feeling well. But that kind of ties into, I guess before we get into that one too much, that kind of ties into the very last page. So I'm just throwing this out there. Like I said, I know I brought up sick leave buyback last meeting. Lowell said we were kind of a ways away. I'm just throwing it out there. Let me just explain it. If you guys think we're still way off, then it is what it is. Like, I know we're getting close to needing to be done. The thought process behind this was as an attempt to incentivize people from not calling in sick. They can only sell back so many hours every year once they have accrued a certain amount. So the math I did was once they've accrued 3 years of sick leave, they can only sell back up to 53 hours, but they cannot sell back anything that puts them under the reserve. The idea behind this is I think we can incentivize people from calling in sick, and from the city side, you are going to pay people out at a lower rate if they end up not, like, if they don't sell back this year and they sell back when they retire the following year with pay raises or promotions or whatever, you're going to sell back at a higher rate. So the idea behind this is there is reserve. There's about the math I did was, again, it takes 3 years to accrue it. It ends up being a 3-month reserve you have to have available. You cannot sell below that 3-month reserve. And they sell it back at their current rate, not a projected future rate. I think this would incentivize people from maybe not calling in sick. And again, you sell it back at a lower rate. Like I said, just throwing it out there. I've seen it in other contracts. I know we're getting close. I tried to make it as reasonable as I could and I guess as fair as I could. We're responsible for understanding the tax implications. If you give us a lump sum check, we're on the hook for whatever that may be. That's our responsibility, not the city's. That's spelled out in here. If we're looking at, again, sick leave potentially being a spending issue, hopefully this minimizes that. And not only that, but if people are burning their sick leave or whatever it may be throughout the year, they're not going to be able to sell back anytime. This is basically going to be those guys that don't ever call in sick, that have hours banked up, and it gives them a max they can sell back every year. So it's not like they can sell back 100-something hours, right? If you're on a 53-hour week, you can sell back 53 hours that year. You're on a 40-hour week, you can sell back 40 hours that year. But you cannot fall below that 3-year accrual that you have to have in reserve in case somebody gets sick and they need to be off for a month. Like I said, just a thought, an attempt to maybe from city policy, I thought it was a great line, was designed as an incentive for employees to minimize unscheduled time off. And I think we're seeing it as well, people, towards the end of their career, they're getting paid out quite a bit in sick leave, which is fine, that's under civil service, but you're paying them out at a higher rate, right? Maybe if you're doing it this way, you're paying them out at today's rate, not 10 years down the road.
So are you looking to carve out the 1,080 for a 53-hour
No.
work week from state civil service law?
No, this is just an addition, just
to-
an annual buyback once you have X number in reserve.
What about the city policy on percentage basis? Are you looking to carve that one out as well?
So the way the city-based one is for everything past 1080. What I'm thinking is going to happen is if there's a sick leave buyback annually, people are gonna sell back on an annual basis at a lower rate instead of banking it till the end, and they're getting paid out at a lump sum higher rate. Now, maybe some guys don't utilize this because they want to go down that route, but there may be other guys that do. So the way I have it timed, as far as like getting paid and stuff, well, it turns out timeline, it ends up being just before Christmas, maybe it's a little holiday, so that could be some incentive for guys to not use sick leave throughout.
Now, city policy for general government, they basically get paid 4/5 of a work week if they utilize no sick leave. So if you're on a 40-hour work week, the most you can get is paid out 32 hours.
Okay, and I'm
But they also don't get the state civil service 1,080 hours.
yeah, and I get that part, like, we're
Okay.
good with the 1,080. Again, trying to understand my thought
Yeah.
process on this one was, if we proposing something like this, does it incentivize some of these people from not calling in sick during the year? Do we get to sell back at a lower rate on the city side versus that future rate? And this gives people the option. They don't have to do it if they don't want to. It just opens up the door. They have to give appropriate notification to the city, appropriate timelines to make it all work for the budget process.
So for the sake of discussion, would you be willing to give up the state statute of the 1,080 hours?
No, I mean, we would just,
No, if you could take a look at this.
and yeah, I would read it because, again, I think the annual buyback is a mutual benefit. Because again, if people are just gonna hang on to it for 20 years, you're gonna end up paying out 1080 at a higher rate. This helps sell it back at today's value, not future value. But I'm, like I said, I tried to make it as reasonable as I can, since I know we're down the timeline. If you guys are just not fans of it, like, it is what it is. I'm trying to, if we're talking about sick leave being an issue and trying to save money here and there, this seems to be a potential solution to minimize sick leave usage.
You're
We
not-
did something like this in El Paso, and it works out pretty well for
Yeah.
both parties.
And I didn't, in all fairness, I didn't create this. I looked at 10 or 11 other contracts that have something similar to this. All I did was adjust the numbers based on how we operate. A lot of them actually had higher payouts.
So how would you handle, let's say an employee was selling back their extra sick leave hours, and then they had some catastrophic knee failure, back failure, whatever, and they're off for a year? And where we approve sublists for those people, but they've been selling time back, would you still want that privilege as well?
Have you run into something like that in El Paso?
No.
So what I'm hoping for is because they have to have so much banked up, like I think Carr, for example, like as far as like a knee or neck ends up being about a 3-month thing. No, trying to be considerate of, it seems like the average amount of people off is about 3 months roughly, on long-term leave. I know there are gonna be circumstances where people are off longer, people off shorter. Like, I don't know how we write like something for every possible scenario, trying to catch the bulk of the people. I would hope that, and again, I think you've kind of hit on last meeting, the personal responsibility side of some of this stuff. Like me personally, I mean, am I going to sell back hours? I don't know, probably not. Do I want them saved? Probably, but it gives people an option as far as how you navigate those people that are off for a year. Hopefully,
Sick leave had just come up a number of times, and so we were speaking like, okay, kind of in the nature of IBB or whatever, like how could this be advantageous for both sides? You kind of heard my tirade about having bodies on the seats. That's because that's what I want. So I need my guys at work, right? And so if this can incentivize that to happen and save the city some on the back end when some of this stuff is getting used more often, just take a look at it. From the departments that we've spoke to, they've had tremendous success, mainly once the wives found out about it. And they're like, hey, if you'll notice in the proposal, but that's Christmas time. Like, we need that for our family.
We'll
And so-
discuss it. We'll discuss it and get back to you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and like I said, that's all we're asking, just a little discussion. I know, like I said,
take a look at it.
we're kind of late to the game, just trying to get creative here.
Yeah, we'll look
but-
at it for sure. I mean, and I understand your reasoning, and I think it's great that you're trying to find a benefit for both parties, but yeah, we'll take it upstairs.
Yeah, and if not, like I said, if you guys propose that, okay, that's section 5B. That was the only other change we had in the sick leave policy. We'll let you guys discuss that as well, but I'd be
Okay.
happy to answer questions on that.
I did have one on that one, just kind
Absolutely.
of going back, we've talked about interest-based bargaining a little bit today, and just going back to the documentation issue, just so I'm clear, what is the current problem that we're trying to solve with that? I mean, is there a problem getting doctor's notes? Because I guess I'm just not understanding
Nope.
what the issue
No, so
is.
what I explained initially was we don't have an issue getting doctor's notes. I mean, we get doctor's
Right.
notes all the time.
Right.
But this one's kind of the 120 hours is kind of a double whammy, I think, for the city, because if we're gonna go get a doctor's note, we're gonna go pay that $40 copay, deductible or copay or whatever. I don't know how much the city's paying on the back end. So from changing that threshold from 2 shifts, essentially 2 to 5, maybe we don't need to get as many sick
Two
notes.
and a half now, right?
So
Yeah, okay.
you're not paying whatever, because when I go and bill the insurance, I pay whatever, $20, $40.
Okay.
I'm sure the city's paying some higher number on the back end.
Okay.
So,
But one piece we are trying to address versus like general government is theirs is 5 days. And so what we put was 5 shifts, because if we're sick today, not part of today, if that makes sense. And like
Right.
currently, the way it reads is 2.5. Well, not many of us are sick half a day. You're sick for the day.
Right.
And so whether that was 3, we just made the 5 actual days you come to work, which for us happens to be 24 hours. That's where that math comes from. And that's the problem we were trying to solve, is that we aren't sick for part of the day. Most people aren't.
I think the thought process of the 2 things in there was, okay, even if that threshold goes up a little bit, is anybody gonna hit that if they know that they could sell back that time at the end of the year? So kind of hoping it kind of plays on each other, right? Like, okay, well, I'm not gonna burn a sick day here because I wanna sell that time back at the end of the year. So it's kind of trying to figure out, like, saving money here and here a little bit to try and piece it together.
Okay, thank you for that explanation, appreciate
Well,
it.
to go back for more clarification, I think Carr brought it up, they get 40 hours, right? You're talking about city employees 40 hours, that's 1 week. And so you get 60 hours, which is 1 week, basically is when you break it down. When you go to 120, you're looking at taking 2 weeks off, as opposed to somebody that's on a 40-hour week,
So-
1 week off.
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, I kind of looked at the language of other cities and how they do it. That seemed to be the consistent 5 to 10 range was when they did it.
The caveat in there also is the consecutive shifts. So if you were actually off for that week, you would be required to have that note anyway, so that wouldn't. Play. Oh, okay.
Yeah, we changed that.
Yeah, so that was the one change in city policy that I was looking at. And like I said, I mean, if we keep it the way it is, it's not the end of the world. Like, people are, well, we're gonna get sick notes. I mean, like, that's what we do. Trying to think of, I don't know how much the city spends on the back end. That's the only thought process. I know it can't be unlimited. At some point, we gotta start getting sick notes. Just trying to find something reasonable between what's currently 2 in a 12-month period to 5 in a 12-month period.
So for discussion for us upstairs, we're looking at between 2.5 shifts or 5 work days for us now, and going to 5 shifts or 10 work days. So that's the discussion of where we want to get between.
So, yeah, and I tried to only change the hours, not the language, because I know when we change the language, it starts messing with other stuff. So I didn't want to make it work days or shifts, like, I don't want to change any of that. I'm just changing the number of hours so it doesn't screw up the other part of that, policy.
Well, we still have 3 days in that section 5A.
Well, so that, again, that's from city policy.
I know.
I don't think that part, because of the, semicolon matters, because the section B says, for fire department employees on a 27-day work cycle, and then there's the or after a semicolon. But if you want to take out the A, well, that doesn't matter.
No, I guess I'm just, to make sure we're clear on what the language is, we still use the terminology of days in subsection A is my point.
Yeah,
It's-
yeah,
It's
and
not, it's not keyed off of hours or shifts.
Right.
It says days.
And I think where it comes into play is at the end of B where it says or, so it would be one of those three options. I think, and again, I think when we initially proposed consecutive shifts, we wanted to get away from that because that messed with the 1080 as far as like work days and shifts and stuff. So I don't know how to make it work on that end. In my head, I thought the easiest way to do it was just change the hours. And again, besides what's in red, that's just from city policy. So I don't know how it worked
Yeah.
in city policy before, but
Yeah. I don't know that we have a necessary preference one way or the other about hours versus days or shifts. I think it's just,
Yeah,
I think it's on the
days is more
number.
consistent. I think we've done days in the past, work days, and so they're 12-hour work days,
and that's what it says.
2 work days in a
Right.
shift. So I think
Right.
sticking with days would be more consistent.
Yeah, and that's why I just changed the quantity of the hours so we didn't have to change the language on everything else. So, just do it over, I guess, and let me know what you think. Like I said, just try and get creative with maybe ways to incentivize unscheduled leave.
So how big of a deal is this to y'all on a scale of 1 to 10 that we work this out to get to 10 work days?
I
From
mean,
the
I don't, from my perspective, I think if we operated how we operated currently, I don't think that's going to be the end of the world. I think what we're trying to do is come up with creative ways where we can maybe save costs in some areas we don't, not entirely familiar with. But, well,
The half day doesn't work.
Yeah,
I know, I mean, it's hours, not days.
I understand what
Okay.
you're
Well,
saying.
well,
and
well-
Yeah, yeah. Jeremy's trying to round it out to 3 shifts or 6
Oh,
work
okay.
days,
I
as opposed to a half, throwing a half in there.
We don't take off.
It's not a half, right, it's not a
I
half
got
day
you.
off. Yes.
Totally get it. I just, simple math,
All right. I think we understand.
I
what you're
got you.
looking for.
So,
Brian, you mentioned on overtime, you have some
Yeah.
edits you were gonna
so
send us.
let me send that to you.
Okay.
That'd be some y'all probably discuss upstairs a little bit.
Okay.
Um, So just sent it to you guys. You want to cover this one, Daniel? I mean, I can briefly touch on it, but
I don't have the latest copy.
it's the same one you sent. Let me know when you guys get it. Still no. Cool.
You know I'll be a while.
Yeah.
Got that good firewall here.
Yeah.
Here it is.
Okay.
We got it, Brian.
Okay. So I kept sick leave and not considered hours worked. I think that's where you guys are at on there. Looking at some of the other contracts, they spell out if you get mandatory force, you get that time and a half whether you hit the 204 or not. So I'm fine with pulling the sick leave part out of it. But I think if we're going to force somebody to work, they should be compensated for that time. It basically just spells it out, like you're getting forced, you're going to get paid overtime.
I just have a question, because overtime implies that you've crossed that threshold on the FLSA, right? So we're legally required to pay the time and a half anyway. Is this, they're forced to come in, but they might not have reached that threshold?
Correct.
That's
Okay.
fine.
That's exactly what it is, and that's, again.
Mandatory overtime, but you haven't met your 204 hours.
Correct. So it's only mandatory. So if you work voluntary overtime, you still have to hit that 204.
Yeah.
This is if, hey, you're about to leave work and they say you have to stay. You just canceled your plans for a day, you're going to get that overtime. But voluntary still falls under the 204.
I get it. It's more like if you're forced to come back and work, whether you've hit overtime or not, you're gonna
Correct.
get a premium rate of
Yeah, well,
time and a half.
So, yeah, Fort Worth calls it emergency.
I'm a lawyer, so like the
Yeah.
overtime, it'll confuse me.
Yeah, Fort Worth calls it like emergency callback overtime, premium pay, whatever it may be.
We're not hung up on the language, just if a guy thinks he's going home and then it's told he's not, he should be compensated for that
I
at
totally
the
understand your
1.5
reasoning.
rate.
I'm just trying to figure out the mechanics of how
Yeah.
it would apply.
So the rule around the kitchen table is going to be, if you call in sick, do not sign up for overtime. That's going to be the rule, right?
Well,
I mean,
I mean, let's be honest.
So
Yeah.
even if the mandatory part wasn't in there,
Uh-huh.
I mean, is that still gonna be the case? Like, because if sick leave's not counting as time worked,
Yeah.
I mean, that's still gonna change everything, so,
Personally, I think the guys that generally sign up, if they happen to be sick, they're gonna sign up for straight time.
and yeah, and well,
Unless
because.
the generations have changed, I don't think that's going to happen.
Because you also got consider, you also got to consider this, because of the way we have the mandatory list set up, it's the person that's worked the least amount of overtime. So if somebody, like, let's say Daniel wants the overtime, but he called in sick, but he's like number 80 on the force list, we can't all just say nobody sign up because Daniel wants it. There's 70 people in front of him that are going to get forced. So there's no way for us to predict, hey, let's help each other out on this one, because of the way the mandatory list resets all the time. There's no way for us to coordinate that.
I just feel like with a lot of things the city's given up through these discussions, this takes the teeth out of the sick leave. That just takes the teeth out of it, and I don't think that's transparent. I think we need to be transparent. If you call in sick and you have to come in and work a shift, that you called in sick during that pay period, then you get paid straight time. I think we should be very transparent and not try to work the system. I think we're working the system by doing this.
And again, I didn't come up with this. This is in every other contract, so this isn't reinventing the wheel here. This is Fort Worth's contract, has the exact same language in there.
Yeah, someone that thinks they're going home tomorrow and then doesn't get to shouldn't also be penalized on the compensation side. I mean, that's You thought you were going to your kid's baseball game and you're told now you're not. Oh, and I'm gonna pay you less because your kid was sick 2 weeks ago. That just doesn't make sense in any world.
So I'm trying to make.
Well, neither does getting a Kelly Day when you don't hit the required hours to get it, but we're giving you that.
Yeah,
So
and
that,
again,
this is a give and take conversation, and
Yeah.
I think in this regard, you're taking too much, in my opinion.
Okay, I'm trying to,
how many times does
Well-
this happen?
so, well,
That was actually gonna be my question, but
It
as
would
to,
be
but
very negligible.
but I think that also cuts against why do we even need that in here if it doesn't happen all that often?
Because the example I just gave. So I worked at a department, and I'm sorry, I'm a little passionate on this, but Saturday morning I wake up and I think I'm going to my kid's ball game, and they say, no, you're not. You're staying here.
You know, for this being the first contract, I think we leave it out, and if you guys want it and you're fine, we can negotiate it then.
so, the only, I guess here's where some of our hang up on this one is, we've had some discussion about making sick leave not count as productive time worked. I get that part of it. We're trying to come up with, like Jeremy was saying, a way that somebody gets forced. I mean, there's no way for us to game the system because the list is the mandatory hiring list. I mean, there's going to be 70 other people in front of the person we're trying to get to. Like, there's no way to make that work as far as, like, gaming the system goes. And just in, just being candid, I think we're still not thrilled with the sick leave part. And the only reason I bring that up is, again, we've had some difficulty on the payroll side. I know we're working through that. We've made great strides. Is this going to make that worse or not? Like, I don't know the answer to that. Is this going to cause more issues? Because now we're waiting a 27-day period to figure out if somebody called in sick or not. Like, I don't know. And it's also,
I don't know, I mean, every other city department, their sick leave is not counted as productive time or hours worked, so.
I agree.
We make it work for PD, I would imagine we can.
Do
make
they
it
have
work.
mandatory overtime?
well,
Yes,
so-
as public safety, they
So,
certainly can, yes.
I'm glad.
Fire and police, right.
I've heard the thing about PD before, because I've had a conversation with them. They're not thrilled about the sick leave time being counted as productive time for us. I get that. However, we're on the reality is we work different schedules.
I understand the
maybe
shift
than them.
differential. I'm just saying, your question was from a payroll standpoint, can we make it work operationally? And I'm saying, I think we could figure that out since we do it for every other department, including our other public safety department that does have callback.
And I think we need to be real careful here of how much we're asking for, because then that brings Kelly Day back into the discussion. If you want guaranteed Kelly Days, let's leave this topic out. And that's what we've tried to keep in play for you guys, to have your guaranteed Kelly Day. Let's assume somebody takes a Kelly Day and uses sick leave. And now you don't want to be forced to work your 204 hours because you want to go to your kid's baseball game. I think there needs to be some responsibility put on the table by both sides. And so I totally disagree with what you're putting out here for this having to work.
You know, I think that's I think putting this in is a terrible request at this time.
Okay.
And we'll have a caucus on it, and we'll go from there.
Yeah,
But it's just-
we'll have a discussion on that.
Okay, before we go to like any sort of caucus, I want to make sure we've gotten through kind of where we are inventory-wise. Making sure if there's anything else. We're
Work
going to get
hours.
TA prepared on the disciplinary matrix and the funding articles, and we're going to revise the TA on the promotions. So we'll have that for when we come back this afternoon. Did you want to talk about, were there any other articles we haven't talked about this morning that we need to go over? We're still looking at the payroll deduction, obviously the ones you've just sent. We need to go talk about work hours, maintenance of standards.
Sure.
I think those are the two we haven't really touched on yet.
Okay, yeah, so I guess, Bear with me one sec, trying to look through something.
Well, for right now, nothing, because we're fixing the contract grievance procedure one, and chief wants to look at the lateral hiring and on the list, so we're gonna
And then
pull
we
these
have
back
to
for now.
Make some changes on the certification and incentives.
Yes.
Right, right.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you want to go over the work hours
Work
one
hours?
real quick?
Sure.
Okay. I'll send that to y'all here in a minute. Like I said, all I did was added in section 1 by mutual agreement, the fire chief and association executive board can agree to change the hours set forth in this section. That was the discussion we had last meeting about that, and the idea behind that was, again, so if the next chief wants to do a different work schedule, their hands aren't tied to having to go back to ratification. So, like I said, we had that discussion last meeting. All I did was put that language in there based on that discussion we had. And then the question on the communications division, making it a 365-day work period. So the way the overtime article is written right now, am I understanding correctly that if you work overtime in communications, you will only receive one overtime check a year, and that will be the following year, because they're on a 365-day. You have to wait and factor in that sick time, right?
You know, this 365-day work period was worked out, as you know, by the association back in the early 2000s. It was where Chief White was here, and they got the Department of Justice in. I've reached out to Fort Worth and Dallas. I've not got a response from them. I don't know if y'all reached out to the association to get it from them. But they are on a 365-day work period, but no, they get paid their overtime through pay periods if they come in and work additional shifts, because sick leave has been counted as time worked.
But
in the
now
past.
it won't be.
Yeah.
So they're only going to, by making that change, now you have to wait till the end of the year to make sure they hit that to pay them out the overtime. So now you're going to one overtime check in January for the previous 365 days.
Well, that's a great topic for discussion. Let us work through that, because you bring up a very valid point. And, you know, I don't know if we need to look at that from a pay period to pay period or an annual. You know, that's a great question, Brian.
Yeah, and so the conversations I've had with some of our counterparts regarding that, from my understanding, they put them on a 28-day period. That's how they make that work. I'm just, like I said, I'm trying to figure out how to make it work without any potential issues. So, I mean, that was the only question I had on that article. So, like I said, I'll send that to you.
Okay.
All I did was, like I said, I put in the one line that we had the discussion about, and then we're just kind of waiting to hear on the 365. But, let's see.
Are we good at TA on Article 2?
Well, I mean, yeah, but
It's
that,
definition, so.
I'm
no,
sorry, I'm
no,
sorry,
he's talking
no.
about authority and term.
Authority and
term,
term, yeah.
Yeah, that,
That 4-year.
yeah, I mean, it's
we agreed to
drafted,
it, so
it's
this
drafted,
is-
but we can hold on that until we know that we've reached agreement on all this other stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I think we're on the same page on Serpes, and that cleanup gets
Yeah,
done. We're
we'll get
good
that
on.
cleanup. Do you want us to go ahead and TA that too?
Yeah, with the language.
Yeah,
we talked
Okay,
about.
Yeah,
okay,
I
we'll get
think-
that TA'd.
We'll
I
do
think
that.
that'll be
Perfect.
fine. We got the promotion one, I think, figured out, just says 6 words.
Yes, well, we're revising that TA right now, so we'll get that cleaned up.
Okay. Scroll through this real quick, see if there's anything else we can hit on real quick. Let's see. I think grievance one you guys are going to talk about a little more. I think we both had that, just cleaning up the language on the grievance one a little bit.
Correct. We'll add that
Okay.
word mediation in there.
Yeah, but
Okay.
I'm gonna just look at that one step forward a little closer, and then we'll look at that
Yeah.
section you
Okay.
asked us to look at on the costs.
Okay, and then I think that's it for now. I think there's some discussion to be had, and then we can kind of hit on the other stuff after discussion.
I've got for the afternoon,
Investigations and discipline.
maintenance of
Maintenance of
standards,
standards. Those are the ones
investigations and discipline, yeah.
Okay,
And
That we haven't talked about,
That
and
was-
then obviously, we're gonna go back, Chief wants to go back and look at the procedural for filling the beginning positions with just the testing stuff, but I think, other than that, we were generally close on that one too.
okay. Yeah, I mean, we
Our
don't,
Discussions.
we have
with staffing.
no issue with that one. I mean, obviously, we wanted to make it clear that, like,
Right.
we're not, responsible for that. We've seen that happen in some other cities that did not work well for the Austin firefighters at all. So not a huge deal to us, but, we were discussing it, I guess, just real briefly on the hiring one. Again, this is your guys' article, however you want to do it, be my guest. But when looking at, again, potential ways to save money and minimizing sick leave, is there any concern? Because we see a lot of the guys that go on extended sick leave, long-term sick leave, whatever that may be, they're older. So by raising the age to 41, are they going to be closer to hitting that long-term leave? Because, I mean, in 5 years of 46, now they're going to be off for whatever, 3-4 months, whatever, as opposed to somebody that's 36 where they have a couple more years. I mean, they've got 10 years before they get to that point. Again, not our, do whatever you want to do on hiring. I want to make that clear. Just, like I said, when we're looking at trying to get creative on some of the sick leave stuff, is that a potential concern or not?
I guess I'm not really following. Are you saying that since they're getting older, they're more prone to injuries? Is that
Correct.
Bottom line? Okay.
Correct, and like I said, if the average dude gets hurt at 46 and he's on long-term leave, now we only have 5 years with that person before they're utilizing that sick leave versus somebody that's got hired at 36 and now, okay, they're 10 years away from starting to utilize that sick leave.
Yeah.
Again, just,
I can't say that won't happen. I can say that the ones we have on disability retirement were way under 40 when they
Okay.
got on there, so
I-
who knows? It might happen, it might not. We're just trying to open it up, like I said, for numerous reasons.
Yeah.
One, to compete with other cities. Two, to allow military that serve a full career in military to have an opportunity to come here.
yeah.
You know, so there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of opportunities, and I think the opposite could probably be said for somebody coming in that later in life, that they want to succeed and get another, pension, rather than looking for using sick
Yeah,
time. I
totally.
don't know. I can't say you won't be wrong, but I can say that I'd like to have that opportunity to
Yeah.
make you right.
Like I said, we're on board with that. I just wanted to throw that out there. But like I said, we have, I guess, no official stance on that. Whatever works for you guys, cool. That's fine. So, yeah. So, alrighty. That was the only thing on that one. But
Okay,
what are you guys looking at as far as time goes? You just want to shoot us a text? There.
It's 12:50.
Yeah.
Should we shoot for, I mean, we have a lot of things to now talk
yeah.
about based on some of the additional stuff y'all kind of put on the table. So should we say like an hour and a half? That gives everyone
Yeah, that's
lunch.
fine.
It's
I know
lunchtime.
there's a lot to go over.
wanna
If there's
eat?
any questions or stuff, give me a holler. I'd be more than
Okay.
happy to come down here real quick if
Yeah.
we need to and have that discussion, but
Let's shoot for 2:30. Is that
Okay,
is that
2:30.
good?
2:30, okay.
trying
Is
to
that
get as
good?
much done as we can.
If you need
so.
more
It's almost
time, let
one.
us know.
Okay, thank you.
We'll be in contact.
Cool, thanks guys. Ready, break.
Ready to get started?
Absolutely.
Okay, so, and I gotta get out of here by 5. So, we've got an extension ready
Okay.
so that we can sign. I'm gonna give this to Orlando for him.
Absolutely.
So that'll go September 1 to September 15th.
Yeah.
And we've got a-
And we have a date
You want me
scheduled
double-
September
You want me to double
4th.
check the math on that one?
I did it. but
Honestly,
you can do it again.
yes.
Okay.
We're lawyers.
We'll take a look, but
Yeah.
yes, September 4th.
And we
we're
are set for
tentatively
September
scheduled.
4th.
Oh, yeah, not tentatively, we are set for September.
We are set
set
for
for
September
September
4th.
Correct, we are set.
Yep.
Okay. We have put together 9 TAs.
Okay.
So I'm gonna start out with Article 14, staffing standards. Y'all sent back counter proposal to our proposal, and we are accepting your proposal as
Wonderful.
written.
Awesome.
I'm gonna give it to Orlando to sign. Vacation leave, there's been so many articles, I can't remember who, or where.
Yeah.
who's-
On that one, the only thing we added was based on the conversation about when we do the sign up, when
Yeah.
y'all do the sign up for vacation, the only thing we added is in section 4, we added that the additional slots would occur, the selection of the additional slots would occur prior to the annual vacation selection.
Yeah, that's fine, that works for
So
us.
that's what we drafted, that's what's in the TA.
Yeah,
I'm giving to Orlando.
And
to
I sent that
sign.
to you electronically, so hopefully y'all saw it.
yeah, oh yeah, thank
Okay.
you.
Then we have Article 20, payroll deduction. You all, we had kind of gone back and forth. There was some edits, and then we went right back to your original proposal that you all sent over this morning. We are accepting that original proposal. The only difference that we've added in here is that y'all had to notify the city finance director. We've got notify the city finance director and human resources director or their designee. Otherwise, it's an acceptance of y'all's proposal.
Okay, awesome, thank you guys, yeah, appreciate the effort on that one and working with us on that, really do, thank you guys.
The contract grievance procedures, we added mediation where you all pointed out, there was a typo in one of the sections that said nor when it should have said not
In step 4.
in step 4. So we added mediation in step 4, so it's explicitly clear that you can go either to mediation
Okay.
traditional or arbitration traditional.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
And I didn't,
And the
I-
costs, we took out the
Oh,
cost
we
language
took
you
the
had
cost
requested
sentence out at
in
the end.
section 5.
I didn't get that one. I don't-
Okay.
Oh,
Do
okay.
do you mind, I mean, I'll send it to
No,
these
I don't-
guys for
I don't
review
mind.
real
Yeah.
quick, but
Yeah.
I think we're good
Right,
with that
right.
one, so.
Take a look at it, obviously don't sign anything until you're comfortable with it, but
I think supposed to do
we took that last line out at the end about the costing and made
Perfect.
those changes there. Certification and incentive pay, Article 10. I think we talked about this earlier this morning. We prepped it up for a TA per our conversation, so that is also ready to go.
Yeah, that was the only other one I didn't see, but if it was the changes we discussed.
It was the changes
I
we
think we're
discussed.
good to go on that, so.
Funding obligations, I know we had talked about it, I think, at the last meeting, so it's just prepped up for TA. I'm gonna
Cool.
put that in the file. That would be Article 28.
That's gonna be a fun one going
Which
forward.
one's that, sorry?
Huh?
That was funding, yeah.
Okay, and then procedures for filling positions for beginning firefighters. What we made is some changes to section 4. Effective for each calendar year, beginning 2026, the department shall conduct annual written entrance examinations during the month of September. Entrance lists shall expire on August 31st. If the entrance list is exhausted prior to the expiration of the list, and a new entrance examination is given prior to August 31st, the entrance list shall still expire on August 31st regardless of the date of the examination.
However you guys want to go about doing that.
I know,
Is
I know.
okay with us.
We just
So,
need you to be okay
well,
with
not-
the language.
I
but-
guess, I want to say okay, but we're fine with however you guys want to handle that part of it, so that is not our purview, so totally cool.
Okay. And
Oh, did you guys get the language on the promotion?
Promotions.
Perfect, okay, just striking that one line.
Yeah, we took out.
For
Yeah.
the 6 words, cool.
It's on the next. Yeah, it was up here, we just struck that last part of this first
Oh,
sentence in
yes,
section 5.
we struck
Yeah.
that.
Yep.
Um,
That's it.
As per your request, that's it, and
Cool.
so it's ready to go.
Sounds good. And then, I guess before I forget, we're good with, I guess when we're all done seeing everything, working on the numbering.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, we'll clean that up.
We can organize it. I think I know exactly how you're wanting to organize it. That's how I would like to organize it as well. It'll just
Exactly.
make sense to the reader,
Yeah,
essentially.
I've seen a lot that.
The only thing we're gonna have to, there are a couple sections and articles that cross-reference others, so we just have to double check all that if we're
Okay,
moving
yeah,
stuff around.
perfect.
Here, we have Article 22, the establishment of the disciplinary matrix. As discussed, I don't think there is anything that,
I think it was the same thing we agreed to the last meeting or something
just
like
put it
that.
in TA form.
Yeah, we just didn't TA it last time, but.
so there's that. Oops, sorry.
Chief, on Article 26, just kind of swinging back for a second, and we don't have any issues with it, but are there any triggers to specify, I think the language says, and you give another test? Is there a time period where you would or wouldn't, or you don't care?
No, once you exhaust a list, and we've done this maybe once or twice that I can recall, if we decide, say, if it's within 30 days of the next regularly scheduled test, of course, we wouldn't give one. But if it's 8 months before our next regular schedule, we would. So that's why we left it broad. So wherever we might have to give a test, it would still expire August 31st, and we'd be back on track every September for that test.
Perfect. I didn't want the city being handcuffed to give one for 6 weeks, because they are expensive and consuming, so.
Right.
Okay. And going to maintenance of standards, I think there's like a legal conversation that the lawyers need to have. I want to say, just listening to the last conversations, talking to y'all, we're saying the same thing. But I think, talking to Matt, we can clear this up in just a conversation.
Yep.
And get the words correct as to what we're already saying to each
Okay,
other.
yeah, that'll work.
Okay, what am I missing now? We've got,
I do have authority in term prepared. I don't know if we want to TA it, or if you guys want to look, but I have it starting October 1st, 2025, 4-year term with a 1-year evergreen clause. So, I think we're kind of at 4 years. I think that's where we've landed, so I have something prepared that aligns with that.
Yeah, we'll be good with that one.
Okay. You want to TA? Do we want?
Yeah,
TA it?
and
Great.
yeah, and that one, I guess the idea behind waiting on that one was to see how staffing looks, so we're on the same page on the 4-year staffing, we're good with that.
Okay.
Okay, there's a
You
lot
want
of
to give that
stuff.
to Orlando then? And I'm emailing you, just so you can see, even though it's over there, but the contract grievance, that way you can just review the red lines really quickly, Brian, if that helps.
Are these, I see 2 copies in here, is one for us?
Yep.
Okay,
okay, so we redid overtime. Let me pull up the correct
I want to
one.
look through one of
I sent that
these.
to them.
Yeah, let me find the updated one here. Yeah. I've got. All right, we sent y'all our counterproposal for overtime. With regard, we are rejecting the mandatory overtime. But as for the special event overtime, we are okay with that. Our counterproposal has, so long as the event is reimbursable. And then as far as your question about the 4th of July, that's not a special event, that would be a city event. And the football games would be a special event that would be reimbursed by the school districts, if I'm correct, if I'm saying that correctly. And then sorry, I'm let Janet.
I just want to make sure we don't sign the wrong article.
Okay, and then for the overtime article, rejecting the Kelly Day in the calculation of overtime, since that's essentially the point of a Kelly Day. ABL, of course, it stays in there. We've rejected the mandatory overtime. The special event, we reworded it as special event premium pay, so we're not confusing FLSA legal words. But if an employee works a special event for which the city is reimbursed, that employee shall be paid time and a half of the employee's regular rate of pay for the duration of the event.
Yeah, no, that's fine with us. I just want to make clear for the people, I guess, watching. So the way it's currently written is essentially what's copied and pasted from city policy, except we put sick leave and unproductive time. We added business leave and productive time, just so the people watching, because they just heard you say Kelly days aren't on that list. I mean, if I'm understanding city policy correctly, that's how it currently operates.
Correct.
So it's how we currently operate, just without the sick leave portion.
Yeah.
Correct.
So,
And if you work your Kelly Day, so if you're not working your Kelly Day, obviously you're getting paid for not working. But if you work your Kelly Day, that is time worked. And if you go over that threshold for overtime, then you are paid at the overtime rate because that's just the law. So that is currently how it is done. That's how we've written it, and that's how we've provided in the counter proposal.
you guys will see down below, it's copied and pasted city policy. All they did was move sick leave and unproductive time and added ABL and productive time. That's the only way to change it. So,
And then the special event premium pay is not.
Yeah,
in
yeah,
city-
correct.
Is not in
And-
our
and
city
that part.
policy. Yeah.
and then that email I sent you, if you have that somewhere, that would help.
Yeah, so I know you had
with the
inquired about
schools.
some of the events that y'all work in terms of, I know we have contracts with the school districts for like football games where we send paramedics and do staffing at those games. We have contracts with the school districts
Yeah.
where they reimburse the city, so that we are actually paid for providing those services to the school districts per our contracts with them. And then the 4th of July event, that's not a special event under like our special events ordinance, because that's a city event. That is a large city event. And so that doesn't fall under the gamut of a special event ordinance.
Okay, and, yeah, and I guess I don't actually need that from you. It's, the ordinances are all on the city website.
Correct.
So
The special events ordinance,
I
yes.
can find that.
Doesn't apply to city events.
I want to mix them all up.
And as far as investigation, oh, go ahead.
My bad. I'm so sorry. On the authority and term, just briefly on that one. Let me look at the original one.
Yeah, and
Do-
I made assumptions on that we're gonna all get this done and approved
Yeah.
ratified by the membership and approved by city council with an effective date starting October 1.
And that's what I was gonna get at, like, I know it's in 174, but do we want it in the contract where basically it's whenever wages, rate of pay, and other matters requiring appropriations of money, I have to provide at least 120 days notice, like, so that the initial authority and term we proposed, that language in there was 174 language. I'm fine with not putting it in there because it's already in the law. Like, it doesn't matter to me, I just
right.
didn't know if you guys want that. And then,
I think we can just rely on the statute that's
Okay.
already
Yeah.
applies to us.
That's what controls it.
And then, I mean, the only other one that's not on the statute was the good faith negotiation part. It is in the statute that we negotiate in good faith.
Correct.
However, just setting up like the meetings to prepare. I
Are you
don't
talking
know
about renegotiations of the next contract?
Yeah, so
I
more-
remember your language, it was like when you give us notice, then we would sit down and meet at least within 10 days or something along
Yeah,
those
to
lines.
figure out when we're gonna do it.
Right.
And I'm fine with not putting that in there. I mean, the idea behind putting it in there was, so we're held to something, so I can't just come and say 120 days before the budget, like, hey, guys, we're gonna start negotiating, and I gave you 121 days notice, here's your time, like, to start, like, that makes it so I've gotta give you guys like a little bit of heads up so we can plan accordingly for the budget. I'm fine with not putting that in there, but,
I mean, I would
if
say.
this works for you guys, I'm good with that.
I don't think, I mean, obviously, when you submit your notice of intent to bargain, the city is going to acknowledge it,
Right.
respond, and we're gonna start sitting down and doing the preliminary discussions. That's how it will, that's how it works everywhere across the state. We get that notice of intent, and immediately, we're like, all right, okay, now it's on our radar. And since we're contractually obligated, or, statutorily obligated to sit down with y'all, we bump you to the front of the line as to who we meet when we meet.
Yeah, and hope you guys see that from this one, but I'll be giving you guys plenty of notifications so we don't get down to crunch time.
We
So,
usually,
assuming I'm still the guy in 4 years, but
we usually get the notices like in January, February, and that would be fine, right? You're really utilizing your laptop there. Do you want me to go to the next article? And we resent them the same, right? Taking out the word. I've got the old one.
I don't know if we sent it to them. Okay. Yes.
Okay,
Oh, no, we haven't, sorry. No.
okay. We can verbally tell them.
Yeah. We did overtime, but not sick, yeah.
Wordsmith or edit, whatever we need to do.
Noted on there, yeah.
Yeah.
We've got to, if we need to put a little space, that's an easy fix.
You want to note it on there, the little space they need in there.
yeah. How would I do that?
The red pen.
I got tired of it on that one, so.
Where were the changes on the grievance one? Just so I can look at those instead of, okay. Assuming everything else is the same.
Step 4,
draft.
and then that section 5 on costs. So step 4, it should say mediation or arbitration now. And then instead of, was a word not that should have been there, that's
Oh,
now
yeah, I
there.
got it.
And then the very last sentence in the very end of the article. So to answer your question, definitions, minutes of standards, work hours, overtime, sick leave, investigation and discipline, and appointed positions are what's next.
I don't know if it matters, but it says twice in here, each party shall be responsible for the cost of attendance of its witnesses at the contract grievance hearing. I just noticed that. It's in one of the bullets up there and then in a separate section. I guess we just clean that up later,
Yeah,
but it just
fine.
repeated the same thing.
Yeah, we can remove the redundancy. Yeah, that's fine.
On cleanup on the assignment pays one, that last semicolon can probably come out
Yeah.
after assistant chief.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll clean that. Yeah, there'll be a good final thorough. Yeah. Once it's all merged into one big document, we'll go over it with a fine tooth comb. All those nits, they drive me crazy too. That stuff drives me crazy too.
I'm losing my mind.
Yeah,
September 1, so September 2nd will be 1.
yeah. So on the extension, I think it's supposed to be September 16th. However, I don't think we're gonna need that. Do you want me to just cross out initial and say 16th, or just leave it like? I'm fine, yeah, I mean, 1 to 15 makes sense to me.
1 to 15 is 15 days.
Day, I guess, what day are we counting as
It's day 1. I'm counting September 1 as day 1.
You guys
One
are the
day.
attorneys,
Well, because the
whatever
other one
the-
expires August 31st.
Yeah, so then
one-
September.
Okay, we've
Right.
already,
So September 1 is, yeah, 1
Oh, I
to 15 is
gotcha,
15
yeah.
days, because August 31st was the first one.
Hopefully we don't. I don't think we're gonna go that far, so. There we go.
well, we gotta hire a bunch of people, so we need those paper clips back.
We also, I feel like maybe we need a paper clip. I think we learned during.
I learned a lot about what you could do with a paper clip during IBB, yes.
Firemen are creative.
And Brian, I know you all sent over work hours. We didn't get a chance to talk about it
Yeah.
upstairs, but looking at it, I think we're very, very close.
Yeah.
We'll have a response to you on the 4th for that one.
And the only, I mean, again, the only thing with that one, I think for us was just the confusion on the 365-day, how we make that work. But I think we're gonna get that figured out in the time being. In the meantime, I know everybody's on a time crunch today, but I think the bulk of everything is done. There's just a couple more that we should get done next meeting.
And then Janet's about to send you sick leave. Well, no, we sent you one a little bit earlier this afternoon, but we've made some changes there.
Yeah.
In Article 12, there's some definitions that were taken out. We
Yeah.
put the definitions back in, but we're taking out the definition of workday.
Okay.
And then if you go down to Section 3, use of sick leave, it originally said if the employee is incapacitated from the performance of their duties due to an illness, medical procedure, or off-duty injury, we struck off-duty, so it could apply to either an off-duty or an on-duty injury.
Okay.
And then as far as the sick leave buyback, I mean, I could tell you candidly that the city manager, it's an interesting idea. It's not something that he's saying no to specifically, but as far as this negotiations, it's just too late in the game to really determine the potential ripple effects. But it's hats off for being creative and thinking about things, and it's something we can continue to look at.
Okay, yeah, no, like I said, appreciate the consideration in it. Like I said before, we're just kind of throwing it out there, see what y'all think, but it's fine.
And, okay.
And then you skipped on the documentation, sick leave documentation.
Oh, sick leave documentation.
Yeah,
Right,
so we
going
were
from-
proposing, instead of the 120 hours, it's 60 current policy, you all had proposed 120, our counter proposal is 72 hours.
Okay.
So that's at least a full shift, 3 full shifts, not a half of a shift.
Okay, appreciate that, thanks all. Yep.
And going to investigation and discipline, what we went ahead and did was just strike the ability to use time, the time and a half. We just took that out of the contract. Now, that doesn't prohibit the chief from making deals as he's done in the past, but as far as putting it in the contract, we've just struck that out. If we want to put it back in, we are pretty insistent on the 1.5.
Okay. Well, that's, if you guys want to, I guess, send me what y'all have.
Sure.
And then we'll look at it and figure it out on the next meeting.
Sure. So just kind of doing a kind of little catch-up inventory, maintenance standards, the lawyers are going to talk. The work hours we just sent over to y'all. No, I'm sorry. Sorry, that's the one that we got to get back to. I'm mixing my overtime with work hours. We've got to get back to y'all on September 4th. Let me write that down. Article 11 overtime is what we provided to you all. We just discussed sick leave, which we just went over right now. Investigation and discipline, what we just explained at the moment. And then appointed positions, I think we're going to save also to September 4th to have some further discussion there. That's essentially what I have left. I've got definitions, maintenance of standards, work hours, overtime, sick leave, and appointed positions as investigation and discipline and appointed positions as the remaining articles.
Let me,
And we have sent you all revisions on the sick and the overtime already,
Wow.
just for y'all to look at, so.
let me confirm real quick. I guess before we wrap
Yeah.
up for the day, let me make
Send
sure we're
them.
on the right
Investigations and
page here.
discipline, yeah.
Stand by. So you said, which one, so just to confirm, I guess the last ones we have, Maintenance of standards, the attorneys are gonna discuss that one. Work hours, overtime, sick leave, investigations, and appointed positions. Those are the remaining ones, right? I'm not
And then
missing
just
anything.
definitions.
Definitions. Okay, cool. Okay, so yeah, we're
Yep, that's what
very
we've got.
close. We should be done September 4th, so.
And then a couple of the articles, we've sent you red lines on like overtime and sick
Okay.
leave. So if you're good with those before, the 4th, we can prepare them for TA. If you
Okay,
just
yeah,
want to let us
I'll
know
give you a heads up
on
on
those.
those.
And we'll look at work hours. And then I know we're going to have conversation on some of the other
Okay.
items
And
on the 4th.
I think never mind, we don't need to, we'll figure it out, we'll look through and we'll go from there, so.
Okay. Yeah, definitions will wait till the end. Maintenance standards, the lawyers will talk. Work hours is in our court. Overtime, sick leave, we just gave to y'all. Investigation discipline, we're gonna send that, just right now. And appointed positions will be another one that we'll discuss on the
Okay.
4th.
Sounds good.
Well, we made some progress today.
It was, yeah, a lot of good progress today. Again, I think being down here and hashing out is how we get it done, so we're, almost done.
And I learned some things every time. I'm
Yeah.
not a firefighter, so I always learn from y'all.
It's gonna rub body now.
I might have aged out of becoming a firefighter, but I would like to be one.
Cool, thanks y'all. 4:35, a little bit of time to spare. We
Thanks,
can hang
y'all.
out for 25 minutes if you want to. I mean, we'll just talk about other stuff, so.
Cheeseman, yeah. The kids call that the tea. Yeah.
5 minutes cost me about 20 every.
I call it the
right now, so
cheese.
I'm trying to
Give
get
me all the cheese.